Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Administration's Operation and Budget Committee of Thursday, November 13th. We begin the agenda with item 1A, which is the Race Equity Advisory Council Annual Report. Erica Ryan, Chair, and Catherine Bouye, Vice Chair, will be our presenters today. Any opening remarks, Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, the Race Equity Advisory Council was created and adopted by Hennepin County Board in 2019. Hennepin County is focused on intentionally confronting and overcoming barriers that impact many residents disproportionately, residents of color. The mission of the Race Equity Advisory Council is to strengthen the county's goal of disparity reduction and to advise the county board and county administration on the county's vision and strategy focused on reducing racial disparities and advancing racial equity throughout Hennepin County. Hennepin County has dedicated leadership and resources to drive the importance of reducing racial disparities and supporting self-sufficiency, and this work will be most successful in partnership with our residents. Today, we have representatives from the Race Equity Advisory Council who will present their annual report. We will now hear from Deputy County Administrator Kareem Murphy, who will introduce our presenters. Thank you.
Hello, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Kareem Murphy. I use he, him, his pronouns. I want to thank you, County Administrator Wentland, for this opportunity to introduce the Race Equity Advisory Council leadership. I do truly value the work of our Race Equity Advisory Council. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from them and the recommendations for continuing to support the work of the council in advising the county board and county administration on Hennepin's vision and strategy focused on eliminating racial disparities and advancing racial equity throughout the entire county. I'll now invite Chair Erica Ryan and Vice Chair Catherine Bouye up to introduce themselves and any other members of the council that are here in person today and share the council's recommendations with the board. Thank you.
Welcome.
Chair Gotel, Commissioners, and Hennepin County Administration, I'm Erica Ryan and the Chair of the Race Equity Advisory Council this year. I bring the experience as a Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for the Minnesota State Bar Association. I'm joined by our Vice Chair, Catherine Bouye, who will be presenting with me today.
Thanks, Erica. Chair Gotel, Commissioners, and Hennepin County Administration, I'm Catherine Bouye, Vice Chair of the Race Equity Advisory Council. I bring the experience of working as an HR practitioner for a Twin Cities Fortune 100 company. We are also joined by other council members in the audience today, seated here. Please stand.
Wave your hand. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please. We continue to examine inequities and focus on community and in-county engagement towards assisting Hennepin County's efforts to reduce racial disparities. In 2025, REAC focused on critical priorities in health and wellness, juvenile justice, education, income, and housing, areas especially vulnerable to federal cuts, executive orders, and increased scrutiny of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. These focus areas remain central to advancing racial equity and eliminating disparities across Hennepin County. Next slide, please. We've created 5 committees to guide our efforts this year: Mental Health and Wellness, Juvenile Justice, Education, which is a new committee this year, Income, and Housing. Thank you for this opportunity to present our annual report. I will now share our Mental Health and Wellness Committee recommendations on the next slide, which is right here. The purpose of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Committee is to bring awareness to mental health issues from an intersectional perspective. Our recommendations are: number 1, expanding the SHAPE survey. According to the 2022 SHAPE survey, nearly 1 in 4 residents reported delayed or unmet medical care, with cost and insurance most often cited as reasons. Other barriers might include transportation, availability of providers, trust, and language and cultural barriers. The second recommendation revolves around child health. The recommendation is to track and report equity in early childhood special education. We encourage you to direct staff to develop and implement metrics that track access, utilization, and delays in early childhood special education services, such as Help Me Grow. Third involves male health, and cancer disparities among Black men in Hennepin County are widening. We direct you to direct resources to expand and increase funding for Hennepin Healthcare's mobile health program with a focus on providing prostate and colorectal cancer screenings in Black communities disproportionately impacted by these diseases. And fourth is to the anticipated changes to Medicaid and Medicare will have significant impact on the community within Hennepin County. Therefore, we're recommending developing a plan for accurate and timely information sharing. Partner with community organizations for culturally appropriate messaging in accessible settings for information sharing. Establishing a contingency plan for residents at risk of losing coverage, including clear communication of alternatives and next steps. And expanding support services to assist residents with Medicaid, Medicare re-enrollment. Our Juvenile Justice Committee recommendations are on the next slide. Here they are. The Juvenile Justice Committee is dedicated to prevention, education, and providing resources for justice-impacted youth. Our recommendations are: 1, update and simplify domestic violence resources for youth and families. While the Hennepin County Court is responsible for filing orders of protection and handling convictions, Hennepin County has an essential role in providing accessible, up-to-date resources, especially for youth. Second, expand immigration legal resources for youth on the county website. We urge you to consider minors left in vulnerable circumstances to receive timely and compassionate legal care with pathways for reunification and legal representation. Finally, REAC recommends the county work towards opening a long-term, not-for-profit, in-county facility appropriate in size and scope of county needs that is focused and named as a rehabilitation space. Catherine will share the Income Committee recommendations on the next slide.
Thanks, Erica. The Income Committee aims to address income disparities, promote wealth building, and advocate for economic equity amongst our residents. Our recommendations are: number 1, review and publicize data from the Guaranteed Basic Income pilot program. Early findings and national research suggests that GBI programs can support financial stability, mental health, economic mobility, and cost efficiency. Number 2, continue partnerships like the one with the Improve Group to ensure rigorous, mixed methods analysis and engage through independent evaluators. Number 3, following full evaluation, considering expanding this program if results show clear benefits. Expansion could include serving more families, increasing funds per family, adding wraparound services, and extending program durations. Number 4, the establishment of a reparations research task force in Hennepin County is necessary and a courageous step forward to acknowledging past harms and building a more equitable future. Some of the work could include conducting a historical analysis of interracial harm, community engagement, public forums and listening sessions, and identifying best practices from other jurisdictions. And recommendation number 5, develop and publish a single accessible county action report to advance meaningful support for Indigenous communities, building upon the Land and Water Acknowledgement adopted in 2022. On the next slide, it includes our Education Committee recommendations. The Education Committee aims to address educational disparities and promote equitable learning opportunities for all students in Hennepin County. We recommend that Hennepin County, 1, create a countywide education collaboration task force that includes representatives from each school district, inviting school board members or their representatives, community organizations, parents, and students. This task force would host regular forums or summits to share best practices, data, and strategies for reducing disparities. Number 2, provide training on anti-racism, culturally responsive teaching, and implicit bias for K through 12 educators and administrators across the districts that fulfills professional development requirements. Number 3, provide programming and resources for community engagement and educational programs for parents and caregivers that include navigating educational systems, advocating effectively for school improvements, understanding school choice options, and accessing college preparation resources, including application processes and funding opportunities. Our Housing Committee recommendations are on the next slide. The Housing Committee's mission is to collect and analyze housing-related information from diverse sources and propose solutions to the commissioners to address and alleviate housing disparities. We recommend that Hennepin County should: 1, increase housing reparations through down payment grants, housing revitalization grants, government subsidized mortgages with low interest and little to no down payments, and formal apologies for historical injustice. Number 2, apply the racial equity impact tool to all housing-related decisions to assess and mitigate unintended consequences. Number 3, revise eligibility criteria for housing assistance programs to prioritize people in zip codes with lower home ownership, those who are descendants of enslaved people, anyone who claims English as their second language, Indigenous people or Native Americans, adults with a close relative who is or was incarcerated, and anyone who is a single parent along with those from low-income households and first-generation homebuyers. Number 4, increase the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority levy and expand the Affordable Housing Incentive Fund to replace the loss of federal funds. Number 5, establish a $2 million eviction prevention and legal aid stabilization fund to provide rental assistance, mediation, and legal representation for households at risk of eviction. Number 6, strengthen housing stability through emergency funds, program reform, and developments. 7, launch a lease purchase pilot program spanning 24 to 36 months and serving 25 to 50 homes across suburban and urban neighborhoods. The pilot would allow residents to lease homes for 2 to 3 years while building rent credits towards a down payment. And finally, number 8 is develop and fund a pilot program for medication-assisted treatments in integrated homes. Erica will close out our time with you today. Thank you. Next slide, please. This year, our work focused intentionally on areas where disparities remain most pressing: mental health and well-being, child and male health, healthcare access, juvenile justice, education, housing, and support for Indigenous communities. These priorities were not chosen lightly. We recognize the importance of being specific in our recommendations, especially at the times we find ourselves in. Our research was data-informed, targeted, and intentional, ensuring that every effort contributes meaningfully to dismantling the barriers facing communities of color especially. Looking ahead, we remain steadfast in our communities to build on this momentum. By working collaboratively with all stakeholders, we can continue addressing systemic inequities and move closer to creating a more inclusive and equitable Hennepin County for every resident. Thank you for your continued partnership and dedication to this vital work. We would like to recognize the individuals who participated as Hennepin County Race Equity Council members during this reporting period listed on the next slide, many of them also with us today. As we conclude this year's report, we extend our deepest gratitude to Hennepin County staff, leadership, commissioners, county officials, and community partners for their unwavering commitment to advancing racial equity. Your dedication has been central to the progress we've achieved together. We thank all present and former REACT members, presenters, partners, and collaborators from private organizations and the community. On behalf of the Race Equity Advisory Council, thank you, Chair Gotel, Commissioners, Hennepin County Administrator Jody Wetland, and Deputy County Administrator Kareem Murphy for this opportunity to present our annual report, and we look forward to hearing your feedback and will attempt to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. This was an amazing report. I just want to say that. This is really meaty too, and I look forward into working with Mr. Murphy later on about how we can implement some of these great ideas that you have. And I mean, this is news to me about male health. So I'm so glad. That's why we have you, because you need to bring these to the forefront so we have an understanding of these. But I'm going to open this up and go down the dais to see what my colleagues would like to say about this first. I'll start with you,
Thanks, Chair.
Commissioner Edelson.
Well, thank you so much for all of your work. This is my second year learning a little bit more about REACTs in this second presentation I've seen. So in the report, yes, agree that I was surprised to see some of the numbers around some of the health. I guess I'm curious in terms of some of the recommendations, how we can enact some of them. So will be good to flesh some of that out. But I really do appreciate specifically interesting ideas that you came up with. So it's so easy to identify the issue, but I love the solutions that you've come up with. When you decided to go with the 5 committees to address this year, can you just, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but prior years, have you done something different? I guess I'm just curious.
Most of the ones this year are kind of recurring, but I will say the Mental Health Committee really did expand this year on specifically targeting and looking at male health. So that kind of aspect is new. We were really grateful to have some folks on our committee who are health practitioners or work in the mental health space. So we added that kind of new lens. I think male health doesn't get talked about as often as women health. So that was kind of a priority. Also, some feedback from this group last year, I think specifically from you, Commissioner Lundy, is around looking for more information on how the county can kind of bridge between what your role is in school districts in terms of how do we support progress in the education space. That education committee specifically is new, and that's been continued to think about what is our kind of scope within Hennepin County. And how can we kind of build better bridges between the county and the school districts?
The one thing I'll add to that is, given the federal cuts, we tried to be as intentional as possible and took a look at how the cuts were not only impacting Minnesota, but specifically Hennepin County, using the tool that's provided by the state of Minnesota. So that helped us inform where we wanted to lean into as far as focuses.
Great. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the committee for the robust report and, of course, triggering my obsession with literacy. Thank you. But I think, and I said this last year, I'm going to keep saying it, is, in 20 years from now, the inequities will have started today in first grade. And where kids fall behind, it's very hard to get caught up. And when people are now graduating without the knowledge, I mean, there's been reports about how many colleges are setting up remedial math and remedial learning because the incoming students that they're having come to university don't actually they're not graduating with the high school reading and math. And so there's a remedial part. MIT has a remedial math program. That's one of the most preeminent engineering math universities in the entire world. And they actually this year set up their first one. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just stating the facts that those are those hard realities that we all need to work together. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I like the approach on colleges. I do think there's navigating to get to money. People are like, oh, there's money to pay for tuition, but okay, you got to have reports, you got to have your parents' taxes, you got to have, there's a lot of stuff that pulls together. And, if you're a kid whose family may have suffered financial challenges, you may not have all that paperwork and it can be difficult. Something I'll put for the education committee maybe to think about is looking into colleges and starting to demand, okay, so if 1,000 people start, how many actually graduate? And I think you're going to be shocked at how low that number is and how many people drop out. You can actually, if they make it to the third year, their chances of succeeding are really good. But the first year and the second year is where they lose students. And so you never hear colleges, community colleges, universities talk about persistence because it's not a good number. And so having that, but what happens is if a kid starts college and they don't make it for whatever reason, they don't succeed. And I know lots of people don't succeed and they go back. But if they've applied for a student loan or student aid and they don't complete and they owe money to that college, they cannot enroll again until they make good on that past debt. And they don't forget that. And so I've seen that when I taught at Hennepin Tech, that people, to get back in, they had to make up for a bunch of stuff that is kind of with them forever. And so just applaud the work that you've got going. I like the male health. I would just encourage bringing males to the table to talk about male health, because almost everybody I've met that talk about male health, mental health, are females.
Yeah.
And so if you want to talk to males about, it is different on how people seek care, how they do things differently. And so I think that's important, and I want to applaud you for bringing that forth in your report. Thank you.
Yeah, in our mental health and well-being committee, it was actually one of our new members who identifies as a male who kind of brought that to the forefront, and we hadn't thought about that. So it was really valuable to have his perspective. He's not here today, and then as far as the education piece, I think when we recommended, having some type of forum, we know that there's really great pockets of teachers and educators among school districts who have really great success, especially post-secondary. And I think those forums bring the opportunity to connect those people, especially I'm a former educator of color, and I did feel really siloed in my school and in my space, and having opportunities for people to connect, see one another who even look like them and can share similar narratives, even maybe bringing in, diverse college professionals to that forum, I think is a really great space to help mitigate some of the concerns that you have.
Madam Chair, may I add one thing? If that's okay, I'm sorry.
Please, go ahead.
I think something else you mentioned is really key is, I only spent a year in elementary as a volunteer coordinator. There was one male teacher. And so when we talk about where kids, whether, they act out or they're out of control, they get labeled, they get applied into a different program. And so a lot of that is just, there are differences between students that are males and females. And the fact is, the male students who may have challenges controlling their emotions and stuff, they tend to do better in a class when there's a male teacher. But if you look at the teaching ranks, there's just, encouraging males to join the teaching ranks, I think is such a good thing. And so, thank you.
Commissioner.
Thanks. Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you all for just all the work that you do. You do incredible work. And this report is extraordinarily comprehensive. We have moved from reduction of disparities to elimination. And part of that is because reducing disparities means that sometimes it's okay if somebody dies because of a disparity. That's not okay. We have to get rid of that. So when I look at like the mortality rate for one of the cancers that you pointed out, at 70% for Black men, we have to eliminate that disparity so we save lives. Because just by reduction means that a few lives lost is okay, and it's not. So I really appreciate the raw data that you used, the research that you put into it. I would say that we've got to do a lot of work around breaking the stigma of a colonoscopy. We've just got to break that stigma and make it more accessible. In Black culture, we have a very struggling relationship with the healthcare institution overall, for reasons that you all are probably familiar with. And so bringing men into the spaces of talking about healthcare, talking about access to the screenings that can provide early detection is going to be really important. I think that that's an incredible recommendation, and thank you for calling that out. I hadn't seen it before in such 4K detail, so I appreciate that. I think breaking the stigma is going to be a part of it. That stuck out to me. And then I really appreciate that you brought reparations back. I appreciate it wholeheartedly because you mentioned that it was a topic that you brought up in the 2024 report, which you was, and I was like, wow, let's talk about reparative harm. Let's talk about, what does it mean to repair harm in our communities? And the way that you fleshed it out this year is just very incredible. The detail is incredible. I'm very much interested and have been for years in the work that came out of Evanston, Illinois. They were able to take dollars and give it back to people. I mean, this was incredible. But also I see this in the very next recommendation is around how we support Indigenous people. And I think that the two are tied, right? Especially when we start talking about things like land. So I appreciate that those follow each other because I could see something like a reparations research task force, including the work of supporting our Indigenous relatives and what that might look like. So one question to you would be, when you envision a task force like this, who do you envision on it? Is it, there's a way that we do community advisory boards, but I think this
Yeah.
is more like unique and distinct. So I see professionals on there. Maybe you mentioned research happening out of St. Paul. So when you envision the task force, who do you see as part of it?
Good question. I think for me, it makes sense to have people from that community to be a part of it, as well as people who have lived and worked in the city in Hennepin County, to know kind of the look and feel and to figure out how to work together. But I see people from the community, the Indigenous community as a part, a pretty large voice in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'd also be great to have some feedback or guidance from folks in other areas and cities that are also doing reparation work, because, especially with resources, you don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel if you don't have to, right? If you can find
Right.
examples of people that are already doing it well, like bring them in, have them be a part of a conversation, and how can we take what you did and apply it specifically to the needs in Hennepin County?
Wonderful, thank you. And just the last thing I want to mention is there's a paragraph that just really stood out to me, and it's timely because it says Hennepin County, like many jurisdictions, has a documented history of racially discriminatory policies, including housing covenants, exclusionary zoning, and you go on. In my district recently, we celebrated the change of a street name from Edmund Boulevard to Lena Smith Boulevard. And Edmund Walton was the architect of redlining and racial covenants in Minneapolis, in our region where we live. And so we're just the act of removing his name and replacing it with a Black civil rights lawyer or real estate lawyer who was fighting against segregation was super meaningful. But that just happened just a couple of weeks ago. So it tells you that in our communities, we're still honoring people who are the very architects of the work that we're trying to reverse or eliminate, right? So just so you know, I really appreciate that that the task force is very much fleshed out. I love to see it and look forward to that work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really appreciate everyone here, all of the time that you've placed into this, sharing your genius with the county can't always be easy. You're sharing perhaps personal stories of injustice, perhaps calling upon moments of pain or moments of discomfort or oppression for your communities. And so that's not lost on us, and we truly express gratitude for the courage it takes to not only embody that, but then to try to fit that neatly into 19 pages that are methodical with citations. I mean, it's very, very impressive. So I just want to kind of acknowledge that, the very clear effort and choices and prioritizations that are embedded in what's placed before us. A few comments just to add to what my colleagues have already said. There are a number of these recommendations that really is about information and data, and that is something that we have been committed to as an organization. And we are aware that in this current moment, data and verified data is not always easy to attain and may not be predictably accessible in the future. So really want to lift up especially the quick turnaround on the SHAPE survey. Just want to highlight that. A few follow-up questions, particularly about delayed care, really aligns with the health access prioritization that we have outlined here, disaggregating data, publishing results on our Raise the Baseline pilot. So just uplifting, there are a number of these that are really about information and data. A couple of information ones that really are meaningful for me individually is what you outlined with regards to domestic and intimate partner violence and resources for particularly, when a kid comes home and their parents aren't there. That's like that reality, that deportation reality has always been present for a young person, but today it's present in a really without due process, without warning, and in such a harmful manner that intersects directly with the same systems that we are and services that we as a county are mandated to provide. So just want to call out that some of your recommendations is around data and really publishing publishing reliable information and resources in a time where that is not predictable from other governments. Yes, that's how I'll say that. And then I just wanted to close extending the conversation around reparations and reparative and restorative activity. For those anybody watching at home, there's probably a lot of ways that people think about the noun reparation. But I believe what was written here and what I am inviting myself and others to consider is how are we being reparative? How are we repairing and restoring when we know that something has been systemically not correct? There has been an extraction of wealth via land and labor that is documented, that is painful, and that has not yet been corrected in our day-to-day lives. And so inquiry that is compassionate and data-centered regarding those subjects is really appropriate, especially in the moment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for your previous and excellent remarks. And thank you both for presenting and this amazing report, so substantial. I don't have a lot to add to the remarks that have been made, but maybe I'll just name two things. One of them is, as I read the report, this is not me trying to punt, but I did feel like, gosh, there are other jurisdictions that would benefit from this, and I don't know if I don't think that they have REAC equivalents. I don't think me sending them the report is the most effective idea because, we don't like it when other jurisdictions tell us how we need to manage things. But I thought I sort of made a note to myself to maybe visit with Assistant County Administrator Murphy to talk about like how can we sort of get this out there in a way that we think would be effective and palatable, and also not adding a ton to your job description, realistically. So thank you for that. And then Commissioner/Chair Fernando, the way that you spoke about reparations and you as well, Commissioner Conley, I'd like to add my name to that conversation. It's something that my team has talked about. I think some of us have talked about it in the context of the legalization of marijuana here in Hennepin County and what the county role is in that and how we can sort of use that as a stepping stone. I don't know, that's one idea amongst many. The way that the REAC has presented it makes me realize there are other resources to draw on, specifically like academic expertise. The county has a really tight partnership with the University of Minnesota. Like what are ways that we can advance the conversation that are more sophisticated than, I'll say, me as a commissioner being like, hey, here's some new money, can we do something? Let's make it bigger and more strategic. And so I really appreciate you highlighting that and what you had to say there.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for the wonderful report. I don't want to repeat everything, and this is the challenge of going later on and everything, but I did want to highlight, I think getting data and having that available, I really appreciated the calling out of the guaranteed basic income pilot and learning more about the results of it and really being able to examine the impacts and the potential benefits and connecting that. I think Commissioner Green, you tied it to like what are the other layers of government that would benefit from this kind of information, because it shouldn't stay with just us. And so I really appreciated that calling out and lifting that up. I also huge proponent of the collaborative push towards making sure that we're working with our education system. It is so important because so often our education system is the front door by which we see where the problems in community exist first. Our teachers are the ones who see it. The reflections of home life on children who are coming into their into their doors, without oftentimes the resources or means to help in meaningful ways. And I think the more we are able to collaborate and partner in those spaces, the better off our entire communities are going to be. So really appreciate you lifting that up and building that into the recommendations. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon too about increasing reparations. There's been a lot of really good reparations work done more recently. There have been reparations before, and I would say they were trivial or they were set up for people to not be successful. And in fact, we gave land to African Americans and they all lost it because they couldn't pay the taxes or because they were run off of their land. And so this was not a holistic approach. We need to make sure to set people up for success and make sure, and that's why I'd like us to be more of a government thing than I would private equity or anyone like that, because I don't think that they have the heart of the people in mind. So just my take on what I have seen being done, what's worked and a lot of what's not worked. So I really like the idea of navigating services for education because we have a lot of newer Americans and residents in here, and they really do struggle. And some of our absenteeism and issues is around that issue because I talk to our superintendents regularly, and a lot of times it's with that community that they're really reaching out and talking to them about what's important and what they need, and also getting services to them. Many times they just need services, and they can do that when those conversations happen. So I'm glad that you're bringing this up. One of the things I thought was really great is the juvenile rehab space. I think that's necessary, much needed, and I think if you have that space where they're not maybe back in the space where they were having issues, if they are separated from the past that brought them into a place that was probably not a good place, this would be a different place for them to have a foothold in the community and move out. Now, how we can do that, you know, we're all under a little bit of budget pressure, but I think these are such great ideas. They have to figure out how to launch some of these. So, and I was the one who brought out the male health. That was really great. I like expanding the SHAPE survey. I remember the SHAPE survey from the days when I was mayor and everything like this. And expanding that very question that you're talking about, delayed health, is something we just talked about in the safety and quality meeting for the hospital. And so this is so timely. You are on the right conversation here. I just want to say that. And I think everybody else is on this too. How do we make things more accessible? And I like the idea of the mobile clinics. I just toured the pediatric mobile clinic. You are right. This serves a community and a need that is gone unmet. And so expanding those services to get to some of these other areas means a lot, I think, to our community. It'd be a huge prevention, huge money saver for us too. Absolutely. Besides joining people, trust. Trust. You know, we would gain trust.
Yep.
So anyway, lots of accolades, and you got a lot of work to do. So, any final thoughts on our feedback or comments?
No, and I would just say, like, we definitely recognize the restraints of, budget and resources. And so you've already talked about it, but we hope you find that in a report. We kind of recognize that. In the meantime, bolstering resources, adding links to resources page, starting to ask research questions. So when funding does become available, you have that platform and the kind of organizational structure to do it is really important. So hopefully we've given you some good kind of interim steps until those opportunities arise to be able to start planting the seeds to do some of those bigger projects and work.
I want to thank you also for stepping up into leadership roles. And I want to thank all you board members who made it here today. Thank you. You guys are phenomenal. I know others had to work, but this is really great work. And yes, our undying care and love for you as you continue your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we look forward to continue this year. Our year's only halfway over, so we'll definitely take these comments, bring them back to our committees and our larger group and figure out how we can continue kind of getting at some of those questions you answered and hopefully working with more of you individually and collectively going forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I know. It's always great to see these great work that these folks do. Item 2 is minutes from the previous meeting of October 21st. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
The moved and second, corrections, changes, anyone? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have, item 3 is new business, but it's all routine. It's item A through 3L. I would move the block if we could.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll move the block. I'll read them all in, and then if you have questions, we can.
Madam Chair.
Please. Is there one to pull?
We would ask you to pull 3F,
Okay,
which
3F.
we would like
Okay,
to
I
go
didn't
to the
get that.
HRA first and have a progress motion for that to the November 18th
Okay, so we'll
board meeting.
progress, I'm gonna put that at the end of all this, 3F to progress. So we'll go items to 3E and then G through L, and then we'll take care of 3F. 3A, amendment to an agreement with Minnesota Safety Council to provide occupational safety and health training and consultation at the direction of the county extension ending date of 12/31/28, increasing the not to exceed to 100,000 for a new total of 200,000. Item 3B, amendment 4 to an agreement with Optimex, the county's self-insured pharmacy benefit plans third-party administrator, to include diabetes management solution services and allow data sharing for required Section 111 reporting. Item 3C is an agreement with Deer Oaks EAP Service LLC, doing business as All One Health, for provisions of employee assistance program services for Hennepin County employees and their household members from January 1st of 26 through 12/31 of 28, not to exceed of 415,000. 3D is an agreement with Lutheran Social Services of Minnesota for the provision of financial counseling and financial wellness education services for Hennepin County employees and their immediate household members, starting date of 1/1/26 through 12/31 of 30, not to exceed of 350,000. Item 3E, negotiate agreement with the IMED Vision Care LLC for provision of the voluntary vision insurance services. That's starting January 1st, 26 through 12/21 of 28. And we're skipping 3F, going to 3G, to modify an agreement with HUD for 2025 CDBG, starting July 1st of 2025, going through June 30th of 2030, increasing the receivable up to just over 2.9 million, negotiate award modification to the agreement with Prism, starting July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2030, increasing the not to exceed by 140,000. Item 2H is amendment to an agreement to transfer ownership of Willowwood Estates to SRE Willowwood LLC with no change to the contract period or not to exceed. Agreement 3I, agreement with Summit Academy, OIC, to provide supplemental nutrition and assistance program employment and training. That's SNAP and ENT, we know it as. October 1st, 2025 through September 31st of 2026 with a not to exceed of 173,680. 3J, work order under Principal Cooperative Agreement number, long number, and with the University of Minnesota and joint funding of the Hennepin Avenue Partnership Program starting January 1st, 2026 through 12/31 of 2027, not to exceed of $309,967. And finally, 3L, authorizing an investment officer to use additional statutory investment authority relating to repurchase agreements and reverse repurchase agreements through 2026 with statutory and board authorization limits. There are several attachments. We have seen this before. So I have read those in. They've been moved and seconded. Commissioner Anderson, any comments or questions? I'm going to go your way on any of these.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Commissioner Green?
Oh, you're going down the line.
Yep, going down the line, see if anybody's a question. No. I have two questions then. What is the requirements of Section 111 reporting? What is that?
Madam Chair, I'll have Alyssa Johnson come up. You're talking about the agreement with
Yeah,
Optum
3B.
RX.
Yeah, 3B. Welcome, thank you.
Afternoon.
I'm not familiar with this, so.
Hi, Elisa Johnson. I'm the Senior Department Administrator over benefits. The reporting that you're asking about is standard IRS reporting. We do this every year, and Optum has done them for us every year.
So it's IRS, it's not health, anything. Okay, that answers that question. And then I just want to put a shout out to Lutheran Social Services of Minnesota for financial counseling. Not only for our own people here, I can't tell you how many people in the community I have referred to Lutheran Social Services, and they are just a stellar organization that really helps us out.
Yes, they are a great organization. In fact, some stats that I'd love to
Oh,
share with you
please,
are, I
please.
know you love this. 172 employees have been benefited by individual financial counseling. 939 employees have participated in webinars and other trainings. And the debt management program has assisted 99 employees in paying off $1.4 million in debt.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, we can applaud for that. We can applaud for that. Thank you. Thank you to the county for providing that. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3F now is to authorize the issuance and sale of one or more tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds by Hennepin County Housing Redevelopment Authority for the Affordable Housing Preservation Project at 3400 Park Lawn Avenue and 5010 Summit Avenue in Edina, and a progress motion is in order.
Move to progress to the board meeting on Tuesday.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Made my job easier. We'll go to items for discussion and action. We'll go through these one at a time. 3K is a contract with M. Arthur Gensler Jr. Associates for the architectural and engineering services for the schematic design phase of the Brookdale Library renovation and facility preservation. This starts 12/1 of 2025 through 7/1 of 26 with a not to exceed of just over 1.1 million. Commissioner Lundy, would you like to move this?
Yes, I'd like to move it.
I'll second. Could we have a staff report, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Liz Verderco from Facility Services is here.
Welcome, Liz.
Good afternoon. All right. Chair Fernando, Vice Chair Cattell, and fellow board members. As mentioned, this is a request for the schematic design contract with Gensler. Gensler was selected by the county designer selection committee in March of 2024. Along with the project team, they recently completed a robust pre-design phase this past summer. The schematic design phase is estimated to begin at the start of 2026 with the plans to complete in early summer. Of course, we will be back in front of you at that time with a schematic design report and contracts for approval for the remaining phases. Construction is anticipated to start in mid-2027. The Brookdale Regional Center is a single-story building, approximately 130,000 square feet, housing library, district courts, service center, sheriff, DOCCR, and the public defender. Keynote is the building was last remodeled and expanded in 2004. Objectives of the next phase will be springboard off the findings of the pre-design and continue to work through feasibilities, including sustainable features and refinement of 4 key areas: the library renovation, the service center renovation, and throughout the entire facility, asset preservation, including but not limited to roof replacement and building envelope and site repairs, and replacements of mechanical, electrical, and lighting systems. The project will continue to keep disparity elimination and climate action initiatives as top priorities. I am available for any questions, of course, that you may have.
Commissioner Lundy, any comments?
Just want to say excited. I know the community is, and I just want to thank the library staff for the conversations they're having with Brooklyn Center School District on as they, about a block away, are redoing their facilities, have early childhood learning, and really trying to engage the whole family. And I think there's been lots of good conversation about joint programs, shared interests, and a variety of other things. So this is perfect. Thank you.
Other comments? I just want to say that I heard a lot through the capital budget task force person I put on to that task force about the roof. So I understand the challenges of this building and everything. I'm glad we're taking care of it because we need to preserve this asphalt, and that roof has to be addressed. So thank you very much. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3N is to set the 2026 special levies.
Madam Chair, 3M.
3M, N. I'm sorry, I said 3N or M.
But, you skipped 3M.
That's right, I did, sorry. 3M, authorize anti-displacement community prosperity program contracts, various dates combined, not to exceed of 2 million. Who would like to move this?
I will move it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Madam Chair, Kay Adam is here to report on this.
Okay, welcome.
Alrighty, good afternoon officially, Chair Gottel and Commissioners. We're making a request to approve up to $2 million in pilot funding for the ACPP program. This will allow the county to be able to better address displacement that is happening in the Blue Line corridor ahead of Blue Line construction in 2027. About 13 contracts have been identified that span the housing stability pillar, the business stability pillar, and the real estate stability pillar, and they cover all of the cities along that corridor.
Further questions?
I have a
Please,
comment.
please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I am so grateful to see this before us. This is, for those watching at home, like democracy is such a group project, and this is such an example of a group project. The Blue Line extension is a significant transit light rail project that the county doesn't operate, but we fund and invest in because we know how vital it is. In the effort to further the Blue Line extension over the last handful of years, a community raised the concern about displacement. And so first of its kind in the country, we locally here establish anti-displacement as a key aspect of the Met Council project for the Blue Line extension. And as residents came together, they went to the legislature and asked to have this body be established. They were successful in that, and the county was happy to help to administrate the funds that they were able to attain. So that's what I mean about a true kind of group project community effort. I want to thank all of the individuals who advocated, the organizations who've been a part of this, of course, to county admin for working with community to administer this important kind of first of its kind type of program. And we always know that first of its kind takes some creativity and diligence. And so really appreciate county administration and the Prosperity Board for their persistence and their vision. And I'm really eager to see how this might be able to transform future transit projects or future transportation projects. Feedback around transportation displacing or perhaps deprioritizing the communities that are already there is a long-standing pattern. And so perhaps this could be a little bit of an example-proof project as we proceed with the values that this board has outlined. So I want to express my gratitude and excitement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to give credit to the board for doing the hard work. Really starting from scratch, establishing the rules, establishing the process. We want it to be community-led because there are people who want to kill the Blue Line who don't give one damn bit about the people in the Blue Line. Their only goal is to just try to stop this project. They don't care about the businesses. They don't care about the people there. They don't care about the history. They don't care about the needs. And so I want to commend the board for stepping up and being aware of all these things that are happening where other people's goals are just to destroy. And you guys have set up a board, you've set up a process that is defendable, you've set up a process that delivers on what we hope would happen. And so I think, succeeding in that, I think that credit goes to the board members who are all volunteers, who have come together to do this, who really care about the communities. You think about where do transit projects, when they're going to go through a neighborhood, they don't go through the rich neighborhood. They go through the poor neighborhoods. And part of that is just it's easier to buy land. It's amazing how where you can put a road and where the cheap land is are all together. And that's usually where you find people who don't have power. So we want to make sure that the people who are going to benefit from this line are there when the line is made for them. And so I just want to commend that. This is just steps by step that where we could change things for the better. The one request I'll have, and I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, is I would ask the board to think about the differences between how things are done in Minneapolis and how things are done in the suburbs. Typically in the suburbs, the cities are much more involved because they help provide some of the connections. A lot of my nonprofits are young. They don't have connection to power. They don't have decades of institutional knowledge and connectivity. And so they use city resources to help expand scale, expand scope. And so I know the purpose of this is to get the money out the door, but it is important that there be some flexibility in the future for how that is provided out, so that we can be aware that how things are done in Brooklyn Park, Crystal, and Robbinsville is not going to be the same as Minneapolis, and that's okay. We can work many different ways to make sure that the people there are served best by this. And so, again, all credit and kudos to the board. I think we're going to see some good projects, and I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to join and say it's so great to see this happening, to have it gone from a notion, an idea to this item on our agenda is super exciting, and really grateful to the committee for all the thinking and investment. As Commissioner Lundy alluded to, there are people out there who doubt that this project is going to happen. And when I talk with them, I like to invite them to sort of check in with what's actually happening on the ground. And this is one manifestation of great work and excitement and the reality that this project is for many people, and that I think we're all committed to. And that's probably a great segue to my third point, which is that Hennepin County does believe in transit and the transformative power of transit investment for our region. And I do think that we are getting better and better at how we do it. And there are so many ways that I see great stuff happening on the blue line that reflect learnings from previous lines, and this is one of them. And I see this work and I think about the importance of acknowledging and combating displacement. And I think that needs to be / is standard fare for the work that we do going forward to invest in transit. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Echo the appreciation and kind of the excitement of getting this off the ground and seeing it come to fruition. I did have some kind of practical questions. This is $2 million, and I know like the legislature had allocated some money that required some matching funds. Is the $2 million, is this like our match to that fund? So is this really $4 million going out the door? Or can you talk a little bit more about the scope of what we are putting through here? Is just like we're putting or managing $2 million that is expected to be matched in community?
Great question, Commissioner Anderson. So this is 2 out of the 10 million, the pot of 10 million that we have that we are hoping to get out of the door. There is an expectation for that the contracted sort of vendors would come up with their own sources of match. I know there's a lot of efforts on the part of the ACPP board chairs and some of our Hennepin County leaders to also marshal some support from the philanthropic community to support some of the organizations who might not necessarily have the matching funds on hand. But there is an expectation that the organizations would be identifying matches from other non-state sources.
Perfect. So that's kind of, to a certain extent, double the excitement. We have $2 million that we're administering and getting out the door with the potential of all these matching funds coming from other sources, really showing how community is going to come together, hopefully. And I would love to hear more about the progress of this as we're administering this program and as we're seeing how we are managing to keep community in place, and so that they are able to see the benefits of this future project. So thank you. Very exciting thing.
Okay. I'm looking, go ahead, Commissioner Edelson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very supportive of this. Honestly, I wish we would have done something like this a long time ago with pretty much every project that we have throughout the city. But just a question on this. I'm reading it, and I wasn't here when this was passed, and so I'm just trying to understand. So when we appropriate $2 million, the project is still being planned right now. And it looks like it's to preserve and enhance affordable housing, small business support, job training and placement, economic vitality, and benefit the people. So are there measures that when we're allocating the funds that the board's looking at, and how are you tracking?
Very, very good question. I'm an evaluator by heart, Commissioner Adelson. We're working with SPY, our internal department here, to help us build in an evaluation plan. It is a pilot. There's a lot that we don't know, and so we're trying to build in as many learning mechanisms as possible and to have the learning also inform how future funding is going to go. And we're also going to be building in some of these measures into how the contracts are written as well, to make sure that there's some accountability built into, I think, what the money is going to be spent on.
Go ahead.
One more follow-up, Madam Chair. I guess as you're learning that, I would really love an update or even just a meeting to talk about what that looks like, because you kind of are setting, I mean, this is something new for Hennepin County, but this is going to be state leading. And so as you do this work, just know that you're setting precedent. So thank you for that.
And I would say that we might even want a briefing on this. Chair, as you make the briefing ideas. And I just want to say that, this is ground setting. I mean, this is something we've not done in the nation that I know of anybody else doing this kind of work at this level. And so I think people will sit up and take note of us as we go through this. So yes, I think us diving further into this and making sure that we know what's going on and everything would be good, because I think we should really tout the great things. And it might also bring more philanthropy to us if we elevate, this and other counties see what we're doing. So across the country. So thank you for bringing this. Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 3N, set the 2026 special levies for Shingle Creek watershed at $795,375. Bassett Creek watershed at $2,503.5. West Mississippi River watershed at $106,050, and Elm Creek watershed at $630,000. I'll move this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anyone want any explanations or anything? Go ahead.
Not an explanation, just gratitude. These are also 4 bodies that meet all year. They generate multi-year, essentially kind of capital planning that's rolling. Just for the sake of having the information, maybe having just their plans sent out is a request that I have. Their existing plan, right? Nothing special, but just we get to be the body that approves at the very end of a process that volunteers somewhere have been investing in on behalf of our watershed. So just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, they do incredible work. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3O is establish Community Environmental Advisory Board. This is offered by Commissioner Lundy. Commissioner Lundy, would you like to move it?
Yes, I'd move it, please.
I'll second. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, putting forth, I think, the idea that we talk about the environmental time, we talk about zero waste, we talk about things that we are trying to do for climate, for the good of, I think, all of our health. And this is what I put before this board is a realization we didn't have an environmental advisory committee that actually had different aspects of all of our county kind of represented to provide us some feedback on an ongoing basis. I think it's important because as how environmental activists in Minneapolis talk about things is completely different than how they're talking about Brooklyn Park. And so where you go different places, you get different feedback and where people's goals are. And so I think it's important to have all those views brought forward. I think having a standing committee allows us that kind of landing or kind of a bounce back where we can kind of start to propose stuff and get feedback. I'm also very proud that this includes a youth advisory, which I think everyone has figured out. I love where we engage youth, that they're the future. I mean, we talk about the environment. It is their environment in 30 years, if it's not now. And so having those voices, I want to give credit to the library board. They've got the youth advisory that has been set up. And for those who haven't done engagement with advisory, sometimes people just add youth to committees. And after about 3 meetings, they float off because a lot of our stuff, no offense to everybody here, can get a little boring. And if it's not TikTok in 5 minutes, it's just not that interesting. But bringing things to youth that matter to youth is the key. And if you want to keep an engaged youth advisory, it's to bring stuff that matters. And so there are things that does matter to them, there are things that doesn't. And so really harnessing their opinions and what they believe on stuff in an appropriate way is a good thing. And so I think that's how you engage youth, is be aware that, you know, centuries ago when I was young, not everything was that interesting. And some things were really interesting, but having that kind of good back and forth is important. And so I hope everybody will join me. I think this is good for the Hennepin County going forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Commissioner Lundy, for bringing this forward. I think it's really interesting, and as you said, reflects what optimism and desire to check in with young people about how they want their future shaped, which is marvelous. I really like the idea. I do want to acknowledge that something similar was considered a couple years ago in the context of developing the zero waste plan, although this is different in some pretty big ways, and so cool. I wanted to open with my positive remarks because I would like to move to progress this item, not because I don't like the idea, but I want to understand better both how it's going to be managed, what the exact output is, and sort of how we're going to make it something where we really do take what they say seriously and they can have a sense of satisfaction and sort of solidity about how ideas are carried forward. I just want to make sure that it's something real for both for us and for participants, and I'd like to understand that better. So when appropriate, I'd like to move to progress. But
Other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Edelson, then Commissioner Fernando, then Commissioner.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Lundy. I do like this, and I, like you, I actually really think youth involvement is incredibly important. I'm curious on your ages for the youth advisory. Why 15 to 21?
I believe that's consistent with how we frame other ones for youth. So, you know, taking them from high school at that age and then into, you know, the beginning of college if they're going to college. And so it's just establishing that as a kind of a guidelines. So I think 18 is, you know, maybe too much of a cutoff, but having somebody, and also you can get some college age kids who come, whether it's our youth internships or dropping the term. Yeah, pathways where it fits in those ages as well.
I just would maybe consider us to think about 14 because I just I've had some youth do my internships that are 14, and you'd be surprised that they actually contribute a lot. So outside of that, I'm supportive.
Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you. Just want to express my immense support. I know you had introduced an aspect of this last year, and I was a part of the group that said, how can we make sure that it's more consistent with other bodies, et cetera? So it sounds like, and I'll also support the progress motion to, you know, that's just a few days to make sure that if an age, you know, if an age or a certain output gets to be identified, just want to express my gratitude to you, Commissioner Lundy, and my support for this item. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, absolutely agree with you that having voices from across the county and weighing in meaningfully on the work that we're doing around zero waste and our environmental policies, I think is really important. Really also echo the appreciation of including youth in this as a separate body that gets to weigh in and offer their own ideas. Because I think very often youth and I'll put myself in the establishment, we don't always see eye to eye, right? But it's important to hear and take time to understand what is being offered. So thank you.
I want to say that I support this too, and I'm really glad that you brought this forward to us. But I also will support the progress motion, Commissioner Green, when you make it. And that is too, just to make sure that we make sure that we have diverse folks with diverse ideals. I mean, maybe perhaps, I don't know if we want to have some appointments by county board, or if we want to do it through their regular process, or a combination, which we have also done, like the REAC. I just want us to be really careful about that, so we do get truly diverse attitudes and voices at the table. You're right. Commissioner Lundy, suburbs do see this very differently than those who are in the city. And so I just want to make sure everybody's at the table at this time, and it doesn't get stacked one way. Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wholeheartedly support this. I absolutely think that we need youth voice in everything we do around zero waste and solid waste management in this county. We need young people at the table. We need them guiding it, and so support the progress motion, because I want to see like how robust can we make it, like so that maybe they're up here next year reporting back to us their recommendations for how we move quicker on accelerating zero waste, or what we can do differently in Mound that we aren't doing in St. Louis Park, for example. I mean, just some ideas. And I have a value of compensating young people for their time for participation in this. So if that's something that can be written into, however that is, if there's a way that we can provide a stipend or food or whatever so that they can be participatory in this work. How closely they will work with leadership in public works or in environment and energy or in climate resiliency, so that they have all the tools that they need to be successful are some things that I would want to see out of the establishment of this. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Green, are you ready for your progress?
I move we progress.
Do I have a second? Second. It's been moved to progress to the next board meeting. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last item, no, I still have two items, sorry. Two addendum items. Item 3P is to authorize to adopt laws of the Minnesota 2025 First Special Session, Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 4, as requested by the City of Maple Grove for the purpose of extending the maximum duration of the gravel mining area soils deficiency tax increment financing district by 5 years to June 29th, 2046.
I'll move this, Madam Chair.
A second. That's a mouthful. Can we get a brief on this, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair, Joe Matthews is here and can provide background.
Welcome, Mr. Matthews. I had to practice that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe Matthews, Chief Financial Officer at Hennepin County. Item P is very similar to the next item as well, so I'll kind of speak to both if that's okay.
Sure.
This one is an extension of the existing TIF district. There's a history in the background. It's not unusual for cities to go to the legislature to request that the TIF districts be extended. It can either be caused by development occurring more slowly in the district than anticipated, or sometimes based on the economy or other things that it may take longer. I would also just point out that in this one, it also allows them to use the funds to help pay for some of the improvements to the interchange at 169 and Elm Creek Boulevard. The next item, which I know is not before you yet, very similar for the City of Edina. Again, they're looking for an extension. I would just call out this, the next item has two resolving clauses because there are actually, in fact, two districts that are being impacted, but they're in close proximity.
Okay, thanks. Please, Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Why is this coming now? Is there a timing dependency? And in transparency, you've all heard me talk about my intrigue on TIF like the whole fall. And then also in transparency, just in general, the city of Minneapolis has a very long packet of modifications. So I want to just make sure that I and the public have a little bit of eyes wide open as to why is the timing. I was surprised. I'm just surprised that like at the end of a year, when it is decades from now, the timing part is confusing to me.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fernando, excellent question. So the special legislation was passed this last year. The Maple Grove TIF district, they're up against a deadline that lapses next summer. And so they're in need of having the local governments, the city, the county, and the school, if that law is to be effective and extend the district, that has to occur before next summer. We have in the packet for Maple Grove, the school district and the city have already taken action. For the Edina one, the city's taken action, the school district has already discussed it and are expecting to move it forward on December 8th at their next meeting. For the Minneapolis that you mentioned, each of these special legislation bills that are passed by the legislature can be somewhat different. Sometimes they require county or school approval, sometimes they do not. Minneapolis sought special legislation for their TIF districts that I would say is somewhat unique. And I think we're all in the process of kind of digesting that to understand exactly how that's going to move forward.
So, Madam Chair, so colleagues, personally, if there is not a time sensitivity to this year, I'm individually not comfortable voting to support them at this time. If there's other information on time sensitivity that makes sense to me, I'm happy to receive it. Oh, sure. Sorry.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fernando, I will say from an administration standpoint, even though the deadline of the TIF district is next summer, we do need to know by the end of the year what is happening with these districts so that our administrative folks in the property tax area and in the cities and the schools can plan accordingly. There is a state or a statutory process for all the TIF districts and the processes. And so, if we were to push this back, particularly into next year, that could be problematic.
And Chair, I'm not necessarily, I'm sharing where I'm at individually. We have a couple more cycles left. I'm just sharing that I'm not prepared to vote in favor of this at this time. And my individual reason for it is because there's just a volume coming at once. And I know that the implications are significant, and I just have not had the individual time to digest it. The other aspect that I've been raising TIF for all year is because of property tax strain. So by extending this, it does not impact our levy, but it does impact property tax burden. And so, even just some math on like, how does this impact their residents? For example, if city X has a lot of TIF and then they have to keep their levy low, then that burden is not distributed in a way that is equitable. So that is my reasoning. This is not about, again, where I live is Minneapolis, and there's like a 177-page packet that I was shocked to receive. So I'm equally critical of that. My interest is property tax burden and really making sure we understand that impact. So these are not the communities I represent, and I want to acknowledge that. But I do not yet individually have the information that allows me to vote in favor of it. So I just wanted to express that with transparency. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have Commissioner Green next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Matthews. Appreciate it. I wanted to ask two questions. First is, and their Venn diagrams are probably overlapping with Commissioner Fernando's comments. Are these changes driven by a change in legislation, or do these communities need to re-up on the money, or is it something that's a little bit of both?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, that's a great question. So typically what happens, if you're looking within the geographic boundary of a TIF district, if there's a number of infrastructure improvements that they're looking to finance and the development in that district occurs more slowly, the TIF district will not generate enough revenue to cover those costs over its lifespan. And that's typically when you see a city go to the legislature and ask for an extension. It's not uncommon. I won't say it's common. It's relatively uncommon for that to occur. And typically they're trying to do that for a finite number of times. I will point out for Maple Grove, you'll note that in 2017, they had gotten a 3-year extension. That would have put them to about 2020. Then they went back and asked for another extension. So, I'm sorry, would have been through 2026. So next June 29th is when that district their period for doing the improvements would expire. This will allow them more time to complete those improvements and finance those.
Thank you. And then my second question is, could you remind me, this has an impact on how the jurisdictions, the cities do their finances because they're deciding to put the tax increment financing into whatever it is that they want to put it into. Does it have an impact for us?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, if you haven't had a chance, I think last week we distributed a memo on TIF financing.
I have not.
And hopefully that would give you much more detail. But what I will say in response is the TIF districts basically capture the increase in tax capacity, the increase in value, and then raise the property taxes for that increased amount, that increment, to pay for the improvements. If the improvements occurred but the TIF district didn't exist, that would basically be new tax base for everyone and help lower property taxes. Part of the argument for TIF would be that those improvements wouldn't occur without this as a financing mechanism. And that's really the policy choice in front of city, county, state policymakers when they consider these provisions, whether they believe it would occur with or without that financing.
Quick follow-up, and I do recall receiving the memo, and I remember thinking, oh, I want to read that, but I haven't yet. And so, and what you're describing is sort of dusting off some cobwebs from something that came before me when I was a legislator. So thankfully, there's a little bit of structure in there. When you talked about the cost, but then also the benefit being either localized or spread across a larger geography. So is that the whole county, or is it just the amount of property taxes that that city is collecting? And if it is nibbling into the county, what the county would collect on property taxes, does the city have to account for that to us?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, also a great question. It does capture the tax capacity of the city, the county, and the school, which is why the special legislation is requiring all three bodies to take action. One example of where these have been handled differently in the past, when the Egan Outlet Mall was constructed, the school district in that case indicated that they just didn't have the tax base within that school district to allow that to be captured, and the special legislation was drafted to exclude them from participating in that. So that's a policy choice that can be made. In these, I'm not privy to, the approach that the cities took on these two, but typically cities are able to impose TIF districts without prior approval from the school. In the best cases, those generate new property tax base that when the districts expire and they come back in the tax rolls, that is a long-term improvement to the overall tax base, and that's what we would hope to see. In these cases, I think they are having successful development. I think they're just trying to complete all of the improvements that have taken longer than anticipated.
And I'm sorry, final question. Would it be your recommendation, and this may be a bit of a doozy of a question, I acknowledge. Would it be your recommendation that we respond to this and the other issues that are going to be coming in the next couple weeks individually? Or would you recommend that we take a policy position on TIF districts? Like, I have had constituents who have, years of the legislature, for example, call me to say, Marion, end the addiction to TIF districts. But on the other hand, as you've just described, they enable certain things that end up driving a big benefit that, it creates an opportunity for like a bigger lump of money, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I just am interested in your advice on how we should respond to these. Like, should we evaluate like, oh, yes, they're doing well, they just need to finish this project? Or should we take a more philosophical approach to all of them and respond in the same way?
Madam Chair, that is a doozy of a question. I don't have an election certificate, so I'm a little hesitant to tell you all what you should do. What I would say is I would recommend looking at each district individually. And I think they're all very unique. They all fund different projects. And I think that depending on where we're at in the economic cycle, so if you think back to the Great Recession, there was a lot of TIF districts that there was no development occurring. And so you have an opportunity at those times to come back and look at whether that plan still makes sense, or whether you think that maybe what they're trying to build maybe would have happened in a different time, and now a major event, economic event, or a world event has occurred, and maybe now that's not the direction we're headed. So I'm not trying to totally sidestep your question, but I think that they are really unique and different. And if you were to look at I want to say hundreds, I don't remember how many, if we're over 1,000 TIF districts in Hennepin County, they are all very, very different. And over the history of TIF, which is several decades long, they have all taken different forms, and each one has kind of a unique history to some extent. There's a lot that follow a similar pattern, but I do think it's probably worth looking at them one by one.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Edelson.
Thank you. Listen, I totally understand Commissioner Fernando. Like TIF has been up for debate for years. It really has been. And at the legislature, it was in our caucus. We would fight about it a lot. And so I guess what I would encourage us to do is maybe look at a legislative, because what will happen right now is if we start to not certify these, then we're interacting with the legislation, right? So the legislature's already approved it. So if we would like to start to not certify them, I think we should honestly, I would like to support this. And I would like us then, if we want to revisit the discussion about TIF and how we want to deal with TIF moving forward, I think we should do that in our state platform with the IGR and then work with the legislature on how the preceding year, so we can give cities a notice too. I feel like TIF is a tool for cities. And so for 72nd in France, it's actually one of our it's the most diverse part of Edina. And so I really would prefer, I actually think this is, if we're going to start it now, we should really assess on where we're doing it, because honestly, the economic viability and building up in that area for the city of Edina is really something I believe in. And the school district, I've already talked to them as well, because Commissioner Green, I've gotten people for years too that have said, oh, well, TIF, and again, it's a debate, right? There's two different sides to it, but I guess I would request that we look more thoughtfully to the future of maybe next year.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With like some pretty deep understanding of this particular TIF district and the importance not just of the development that's happening there, I want to speak a bit to, you mentioned the little oddity in this particular extension allows them to fund the improvements to the bridge on a county road. That is MnDOT's bridge on a county road that the city is trying to shoulder because we didn't have it in our CIP. So this is another one of those little pieces that I will say that bridge is incredibly important for not just the community, but for future access to the Blue Line extension, which connects, is one of the major connectors from Maple Grove to where a light rail line is going to be. This is an important tool in order to get us to a point of being able to do that. And so I really support this. I've been seeing, if you've driven out along 94, you've seen a lot of development happening. There's a lot of businesses coming up out there. There's also a lot of apartment and high-density housing going in that area, and I know the plan is to continue to build and develop out there. So it is growing. It is, the future benefit to our tax rolls is really, really apparent, especially at this point. So I happen to see this as a really positive function of that tool. Even if at times I've also heard hey, we shouldn't be terribly addicted to TIF, but this particular one, especially because of its kind of more specific function in funding a project that everybody kind of acknowledged needs to happen, but was unexpected, and because somebody, a truck hit the bridge and damaged it. So it's not like anybody had capacity to plan for it. So this was a tool in their toolbox to try to address something. So, thank you.
Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find it humorous a little bit, only in this, that my city set the standards for the unique ways and use TIF districts. Brooklyn Park was the TIF district city at the forefront of the whole city's layered with them. They all expired during my term as mayor, and I had the distinct pleasure of going to Senator Rest and Representative Lacheski, I think, from Bloomington to make the case, which I think Commissioner Gotell knows how those conversations went, to get extensions on those, especially after the recession when they're expiring. And so I'm, judging, and then I'm also judging myself because we used them all over Brooklyn Park. And so I do think, to your point though, they're not like a block of just, they're all the same. We used a housing TIF district that frankly was going to expire to fund the homeless shelter for youth in Brooklyn Park. It's where we got the money. So sometimes those things are there. I think it is very nuanced. Like there are certain things that you go, okay, it makes sense. Other times just like, what? But they are a tool that cities use to fund infrastructure. We have one in north side of Brooklyn Park that's used to move a major water line. That's not ours, but it goes right through the heart of our development area that you can't build over the top of it unless you move it. So those kind of things go there and they take places. Everybody does it different. I think Commissioner Ellison is correct that maybe, you know, I would be more inclined to support this in lieu of having a conversation later about, do we want to try to find out how this impacts people and stuff like that. So, but I just want to admit that, yeah, Brooklyn Park has a ton of them. And we were there asking for extensions all the time because of the exact point, they all expired during the recession. So, thank you.
Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you. I mean, if colleagues are open to it, perhaps a progress motion. My reason for asking this is because there's no numbers in here. It doesn't describe the project. I believe you and the cities on the benefit, but as a person who's meant to say I actually have no context for this project. I don't know how much money was collected. I don't know what the 5 years was prompted for. And so my own inquiry on TIF, as you all know, is an inquiry. I have not concluded anything because you all are right. If there's a tool out there, it's more about my desire to understand it. My reason for saying I'm not equipped to vote in favor today, but it sounds like others are. So we could also just move forward. But I just wanted to share for my own vote. I do not know what these projects are. I don't know when they were constructed. I couldn't even Google them easily because they're large locations, nor do I know how much money we're discussing. So I want to be super upfront. This was not me signaling that I was going to, upend what should be really seen as an approval process for this body, not unlike the watershed districts or other aspects. But I just haven't had the opportunity to engage with the nuts and bolts of this particular project. And unless I'm missing it, unless there's an attachment, I didn't see one. So I apologize if I missed something, but I don't see the financial or project descriptions that it sounds like others might have context for.
Commissioner Edelson.
Just Madam Chair, really quick, I wonder if in the future, just as these TIF requests are coming forward, that we don't just change the process too. Right now, I would support that we request exactly what you're saying, the financial background, because the legislation does actually have it. The legislation at the legislature, so how we're preparing it right now, being somebody that has done TIF extensions, we have a lot more detail. So Commissioner Fernando, I would support asking staff to prepare that as these TIF if they come forward, that we show exactly what you're asking for. So I don't know if we need to make a motion for that or if we can just be informal.
Finally, I think we can include that in a progress motion. We could ask for the data so that I think that solidifies things. I just want to say that I am actually really familiar with the city of Maple Grove, this particular gravel mining area soils. Before I was ever in public service, I was an activist. And this was a piece where they wanted to try to finally put some affordable housing. And it has been a very heavy lift because every time they dig into that ground, they find some other problem with it. But for TIF, there would not be a way forward to this. And Maple Grove has a plan to actually put affordability up there. And I want to talk to you about TIF because there's two kinds of TIF. There's housing TIF, and then there's development TIF, and they're different. And they have a lot of different criteria from the legislature. And again, I agree, this is an impact to taxes, at least a burden to them. But unless we have another tool to take its place, there isn't a better tool at the moment. And I would say that in a lot of ways, like our HUD tools, everything is exceedingly archaic. and doesn't really always send the purpose, but we haven't given them something else. So I think there might be brighter minds out there who have some ideas about what the tools would be to replace this, or how we make this a different kind of a tool to work for people. But otherwise, cities don't have a way to take redevelopment and blighted property and turn it over, because there isn't a developer who's going to go over there and do that. And it is decades, this is decades in the making here, and it's just now getting. That's how long these projects take. It would double or triple the time, and it may never happen if we don't have a tool. I'm not saying it has to be TIF, but we don't have a tool. So I'm okay for the background information, because there's a lot of dollars tied up into this. I was never so happy as when Best Buy came off their TIF, because that really threw a whole lot of money back into my little city of Richfield. So we all know what this is, but there's a lot of housing TIF that's still going on in Richfield, and it's made affordable housing. That's a good thing. We want more of that, so we just got to look at these tools, and I believe Dan Rogan would like to speak to this.
Just, Madam Chair, just a couple of things, just to clarify a couple of things. One is there's about 100 TIF districts in Hennepin County.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen most of them because we don't vote on them generally. When a TIF district is created, we get notice that it was created. It gets created by the city, and it goes into effect. We get notice of it. If a board member wanted to, they could go to a public hearing at a city to voice concerns about it. So that's how the law is, how they start. The reason that these ones in particular are before you, as Mr. Matthews said, is because these are established TIF districts where the city is now requesting a change to the TIF district. And because the state statutes require when there's a special law that gets made, and these were both special laws that were passed in 2025, the impacted jurisdictions need to vote on it to approve it. And our past practice has been that we bring these forward only after we have heard from both the city and the school district, so that the board knows that the local community has approved that. We haven't generally included the information that was requested here about how long has it been, what's the dollar amount, what's the anticipated information, but that information exists. It's in the original TIF district when it gets created, so we can provide that, and we will provide that for the board. And then we will also invite representatives from the city of Maple Grove and Edina. They have both been in contact with county administration to make sure that we're proceeding with this. And so we will make sure that they're here so that you all can make sure that you have all the information needed to make an informed decision about whether to approve both of these bars.
Madam Chair, if I could move to progress these two
Both of them?
items
So we're gonna
to
change.
Tuesday. Okay, you're right. Excuse me.
So we got a motion just to move one, so can we augment the motion for two, and then we can progress?
And
Who-
Madam
two?
Chair, and just add one more wrinkle, we just have an R1 for the second one, which makes it clear on the background
need to
that
get
the school board hasn't voted yet. Their
Okay.
committee has voted, but they're going to vote on December
Well,
8th.
we're gonna
So
progress
the
anyway, so-
progress would be to the R1 for that one.
Okay, so to the first person who made it, which I believe it was you, and seconded, can we amend to put item 3Q, and then we can do a, okay, so I'm going to read 3Q in. Authorization to adopt laws of Minnesota 2025, first special session, Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 12, as requested by the city of Edina. I don't have to read these again, right? They're long. I know. For the purpose of extending the maximum duration of the 70th and France Tax Increment Financing District by 10 years to 7/13/2047, additionally authorizing to adopt laws in the Minnesota 2025 First Special Session, Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 13, as requested by the City of Edina for the purpose of extending the maximum duration of the 72nd and Friends Tax Increment Financing District for 5 years to 7/6 of 2053. And again, we are moving the R1 for 3Q along with 3P. So that's been moved and seconded, and then we want to progress.
Yes, and Madam Chair, and so colleagues, I want to be clear, I do not oppose these projects. I just want to be very clear.
Oh, no, that is
I don't
good.
even know what these projects are. That's kind of the point that I'm communicating. So I just want to be clear, I don't oppose this. I just would prefer some information in order to be able to vote in favor. So Madam Chair, I'd like to progress 3P and 3Q to Tuesday with some additional background on the project itself and the financial dates, et cetera, that are accompanying.
So I have a second? Second. It's been seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
That item has been progressed. And that concludes our agenda. Okay. I'm gonna have to scoot out of here. Okay. Here's my R1 later. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'll call to order the Health Committee on this Thursday, November 13th, 2025. First item of business for us today is to approve the minutes from the meeting held on October 21st, 2025.
Move approval.
Minutes have been moved and seconded. Any corrections? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes have passed. We have several items of routine business before us. Colleagues, I'll
move the block, Madam Chair.
accept a motion to move the block and second. These are all amendments or agreements to existing amendments. So items 2A through 2E have been moved. 2A is to amend Amendment 5 to an agreement with Infomedia Group, Inc. to provide after-hours telephonic nurse advice line services to Hennepin Health members. We're extending the end date to December 31st of 2030 and increasing the NTE by $1.2 million for a new NTE of $2.3 million. 2B is an Amendment 4 to an agreement with Forensic and Telemental Health Services LLC for the provision of peer review consulting services and intensive community treatment in the area of behavioral health care for Hennepin Health on an as-needed basis. The dates for this are September 1st of 2019 through August 31st of 2026. We are increasing the NTE by $20,000 for a new total NTE of $118,000. Item 2C is Amendment 2 to an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Human Services for the Child and Teen Checkups Program. The dates on this are January 1st of 2026 through December 31st of 2026. We are receiving a little over $2.3 million. Item 2D is an agreement master grant contract with the City of Minneapolis to receive funding for programs and services for the period of January 1st of 2026 through December 31st of 2030, delegating authority for the county administrator to approve subsequent funds availability notices. Finally, item 2E is an agreement with the United States Department of Health and Human Services for year 3 funding for the Better Together Hennepin Communities Healthy Youth Project from July 1st of 2025 through June 30th of 2026. We are going to receive a lot over $1.9 million. Those are the items. Colleagues, questions or comments? Commissioner Fernando.
I just want to shout out my gratitude for the Child and Teen Checkups Program, and then a special shout out for the Better Together. The Health Mentor Program is just super cool. If you all just check out the stats, the one that I'll highlight is 2,000 students surveyed. Literally 91% feel better to make decisions, 93% are reporting that it's helpful and comfortable. And so these are really astronomical numbers in a context where young people are feeling quite disconnected. So I wanted to express my gratitude specifically for those programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on those? Those were two that I was going to call out as well, Commissioner Fernando. So thank you. One that I do have just a quick summary about. Deputy Murphy, item 2D, if you could explain this collaboration with the City of Minneapolis.
Madam Chair, we have Christy Yoon available to respond to any questions or to provide a brief overview.
Thank you.
This is the master contract with the City of Minneapolis for our social safety net services.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, the City of Minneapolis, our master agreement, oh, there it goes. So this is our master agreement. It's been a long-standing master agreement that we have, and it includes all of the boilerplate legal language, such as our indemnity, our insurance, all of that, in one agreement. And then as we get funds for the various programs that we have, those come through the funds availability notices, the FANs. And so it saves a lot of time by having those go to our county administrator versus always coming to the board, just on all sides with all the departments involved in execution. So it's parallel to what we have with the Minnesota Department of Health, and it really helps to streamline operations.
It certainly does. Thank you. Let's talk about efficiency right there. Okay, colleagues, seeing no other further comments or questions, all those in favor of the block, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items pass, and I will declare us adjourned.
Okay, I will call to order the Human Services Committee. It's Thursday, November 13th. It's 3:23 p.m., and I'm the Chair, Heather Edelson. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from October 21st. I'll move those. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. They've been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We have two routine items before us today. If I'll make a motion, put 2A and 2B before us.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I will read these into the record. Item 2A is a Human Services and Public Health Resolution, including contracts and amendments to contracts with providers. More information can be outlined on the report that's attached. That's 2516. Item 2B is an amendment to a cooperative agreement with the Metropolitan County Consortium and the State of Minnesota continue cooperatively provide administrative services for non-emergency medical transportation and related services among 13 counties, MCC region, extending the date through December 31st, 2027. And I will just say non-emergency medical transportation is amazing. So I'm really glad that we're helping with this. Any questions and comments? None. Okay, with all that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and they are adopted. The Human Services Committee is adjourned.
I know next is Law, Safety, and Justice. We will pause till 3:35 using the red clock, which is wrong, but it's the one everybody can see. So we won't start the Law, Safety, and Justice Committee until 3:35, so we'll take a break. Yeah.
Yeah, we can just, I don't, that's right. Oh, yeah.
I'm a politician, I can be disingenuous with the rest of it. Sure, we're from Hennepin, and all cities, but. No, I think that's golf course there.
What's your day?
Good.
Just, I'm not here tomorrow, so I'm trying to pick everything. And I have, so just for, Monday morning, I'll send Grace an email too. I'm gonna be joining the meeting from Ridgedale because I have my PW meeting at whatever, the end of our meeting, so.
This is gonna go long. My thought is cancel Lucy. I don't have my computer.
Do you want me to just ping Jenna?
Ping Jana, CC Grace, because if Jana's out, just to cancel. Or even we just send an email.
Hey, you
to
two
them.
Sanders.
It feels
Are you ready, Maria? You ready to go, Maria? Okay. I will call us back in order, so I'll call to order the Law, Safety, and Justice Committee for today. We have a few items. So first up is the approval of the minutes from September 30th. If I get a motion in a second.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any changes, additions, corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I would entertain a motion to approve 2A through 2G as a block,
So moved.
and I'll read them in order. So thank you. We have a motion and a second. 2A is agreement with Minnesota State Colleges and Universities on behalf of Hennepin Technical College, 1126 to 123127, not to exceed amount of 18,400. 2B is an amendment to an agreement with IMFAM Capital to provide program services to the Department of Community Corrections and Rehabilitation clients. No changes to date, increase in not to exceed by 127,360 for a new total not to exceed amount of 316,000. 2C is an amendment to an agreement with Securus Technologies to provide resident phone and video visitation services at the adult detention facility, the adult correctional facility, and juvenile detention center. Extend the end date to 12/31/28, increase not to exceed amount by 1 million for a new not to exceed amount of 2,500,000. 2D is an amendment with Community Growth Solutions to provide mental health counseling from the Sheriff's Office personnel, 4/1/24 to 6/30/26, not to exceed amount of 150,000. 2E is an amendment to an agreement between Hennepin County and the City of Golden Valley to provide law enforcement and related services to the City of Golden Valley, extending the end date to 12/31/26. 2F is an amendment with Independent Emergency Services LLC in Hennepin County as a member of the consortium agreement facilitated by the MESB to support and maintain the next generation 911 call handling system. Dates are 1/1/24 to 12/31/28, increase not to exceed by 244,000 for a new total not to exceed of 1,130,000. 2G is a joint powers agreement between Hennepin County and the state of Minnesota for the coordination and implementation of network circuit upgrades, 12/1/25 to 11/30/27. Are there any background or questions anybody has? I just had a question on the Golden Valley agreement.
Chair Lundy, Commissioners, I'd like to invite Major Jurdy, who will provide background on item, I believe that would be 2E.
Chair Lundy, Commissioners. Hennepin County Sheriff's Office began providing contracted law enforcement services to the City of Golden Valley. Actually, it started in late of October 2022. Under the agreement A2412704, law enforcement services of the City of Golden Valley were effective January 1st, 2025. The original term of this agreement ran through June 30th, 2025, and was extended through December 31st, 2025 by the previous county administrator. Amendment 2 further extends the agreement through December 31st, 2026, and introduces more flexible scheduling options for personnel assignments and adjusts hourly rates to account for anticipated increases in personnel costs. The City of Golden Valley continues to fully reimburse HCSO for all the services with no financial obligation to the county.
Thank you for that. I always feel like when we have these agreements, to ask for the background and to ask the question. My always concern is just it can create stress on our officers as far as, staffing and stuff like that. And so the stress manifests itself in other ways, mental health or trauma, things that just add up. And so I always worry about that, but it sounds like we have a pretty good tight agreement with Golden Valley. I know this is a renewal. I think we're hoping to be pulling out of the agreement, but I think they still need us around for a little bit longer. Is that correct?
Yeah, just additionally for 2025, they've requested 62 shifts in January, and then it slowly kept declining. Actually, we didn't need to offer any in November, and it's looking at like in the area of 3 to 10 each month. So it's not a major stress on our personnel.
Okay. Any other questions? We do have motion for 2A through 2G. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have agreement. If I get a motion, a second, put on the table.
for
So
two.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, I'm sorry, 2H, which is a joint powers agreement between Hennepin County, the state of Minnesota, cities of Brooklyn Park, Champlain, and New Hope for the provision of an after-action review of the response to a public safety incident by responding law enforcement agencies, period of 12/1/25 to 10/30/26, not to exceed amount of $165,000. If we get back on, please, Chella.
The board action before you is a joint powers agreement between Hennepin County, the state of Minnesota, and the cities that you mentioned. This after-action review is of the law enforcement response that occurred to events on June 14th, 2025. If there are additional questions, we have Major Jurdy, again, available to provide more details.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Fernando.
I think it's very good that we are participating in this after action, and I appreciate how this is coming before us.
Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just echoing the appreciation, wondering after the review is completed, what we might learn. How will it be shared with us? Thank you.
Major Jurdy.
So the after-action report is going to be conducted, from my understanding, by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. We've done these for a number of years. So once that is completed, it'll be disseminated to all the agencies involved. The whole process after that, I'm not really clear on, but that it'll obviously take some time, a lot of interviews with people and going over reports and all the stuff that happened within that 2-3 days of chaos. So they'll take it over, do their work, and then we will get, whether it's version drafts initially, I'm not 100% sure on, but we'll get to see those reports when they're completed.
Thanks. Any questions? I've just shared that, as been described to me, this organization has done, they did Uvalde, they've done Columbine, they're frequently used because of their expertise to come in and do an after action to see, that critical analysis by an outside group to say, here's where things worked, here's where it didn't work, here's changes. And so, hopefully it's something we never have to go through again, but maybe we learned something and it's good for public record. I would just point out that, being in agreements with Hennepin County, this board will get the report as well. So. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last, we have 2I, if I can get a motion and a second, please. We have a motion, a second for 2I, which is an amendment to an agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for public safety technology equipment and maintenance of a software platform, 10/22/19 to 12/31/34, not to exceed amount of $39,885,000, which is the biggest amount I've done in this committee. So can we get some background? Maybe a little bit.
Yes, Chair Lundy, Commissioners, Major Kristen Tomlinson is available to provide background and provide additional context as to the agreement with Axon. I would just note that Axon provides services not only to the Sheriff's Office, the Department of Community Corrections and Rehabilitation, and also you'll note in the background of this item, there is reference to other departments' security, facilities security, accessing these services or technology, the body cam that's available through Axon, and would note that the driving force behind this item before you is cost savings, and to try to leverage the multiple users we have within the county to get better rates. So with that, I'll turn it over to Major Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Since 2019, the Sheriff's Office has contracted with Axon Enterprises to provide public safety technology, including body-worn cameras, tasers, digital evidence management, and associated implementation and support services. The agreement was amended in 2022 and extended through 2029 to incorporate a new records management system, Axon Records, and other software tools to allow the HCSO to sunset other systems that would become obsolete or unsupported in the coming years. The amendment also provided additional body-worn cameras to the Department of Community Corrections and Rehabilitation for staff serving residents in the juvenile detention facility. In 2023, HCSO entered into an agreement with Fusus Incorporated for a video sharing platform that enabled HCSO to access, or enables us to access and aggregate public and private video sources to enhance situational awareness, support coordinated incident response, and allow us to respond more effectively and efficiently to the needs of the community. In 2024, Fusus was acquired by Axon. This amendment will sunset the individual agreement with Fusus and roll it into the Axon agreement at a significant cost savings over the next 2 years. The driving force behind this proposed second amendment is cost savings. In addition to existing products and services, including Fusus, the amendment will include optional access to Axon's current and future artificial intelligence tools, including but not limited to redaction assistant, auto tagging, Axon Investigate, language translation, and other AI-based features. These tools and features are offered to the county at no additional cost as part of the amendment and extension, and the county has discretion in whether and how these tools may be used. In consultation with county administration, the county attorney's office, and the information technology department, HCSO is assessing how these tools and features can serve operational needs now and in the future. DOCCR continues to utilize this agreement. Facility Services Security intends to use the amended agreement starting in 2026, and Hennepin Healthcare has its own agreement with Axon. As part of this new account review and amendment initiative, they are considering extending their own agreement through 2034. If the Fusus platform were renewed under the existing separate agreement, the annual cost would increase 88.4% beginning in 2027. Additionally, Axon has communicated that its pricing will increase on December 1st, 2025. So receiving board approval prior to this date for consolidating products and services, including Fusus, under one agreement will allow the county to secure discount levels, avoid future cost escalations, and preserve budget stability over the 9-year term.
Any questions, comments? Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too saw the number and then I did read the background. So I appreciate the, for lack of a better word, like economies of scale that seems to be kind of going on here, and the timing. So I can appreciate that. I was trying to do the math on how much annually is actually being spent. And so I think it might be better just to do a follow-up, because I was trying to do the math from the inception paragraph, but then I know in the top it says facility. So an actual breakdown of how much is being spent from 2019 or was spent, because that's where I got tripped up. So from 2019 to present, it was not even 9 million. Even with the reductions, I just want to get a sense of how much each department is actually has expended and then is planning to expend, which could be a follow-up. But yeah, and I see the 88.4% increase. So individually, I'll be supporting this, but I want a proper breakdown for transparency's sake. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, Commissioner Fernando, we will follow up with the specifics. I will say that the renegotiation process was led by Purchasing and Contract Services in conjunction with the departments, the interested parties, and so we will have that breakdown for you.
And Chair, if I can amend my request, maybe just updating the background to include it for board. I mean, none of the clauses will be different, but just from a public transparency, adding that to the background, it would be sufficient for me personally. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask, so this has come up in conversation with a constituent about something completely different. So I want to sort of say that up front. But I did want to ask, do we know that Axon doesn't share this data with other interested parties, let's say? And given that given the length of the contract, do we have insight into Axon possibly changing its relationships with other jurisdictions and changing whether or not they decide to share information?
I will have to get specifics in terms of that, but we do have a contract in place with them that would ensure the security of our data, which is always paramount when we enter into contracts that have any type of data incorporated with it. So we wouldn't have initially agreed to it, but in terms of language being included in it, that would prevent any further changes. I would have to get back to you on that.
Thank you. If I'm happy to support today, but I'd love to hear back. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I just had a couple more comments. it's a standard software ploy to say, we're gonna raise our prices next year if you don't renegotiate. And so I'm like, oh, like you're giving us a chance to spend more money with you in lieu of spending more money. But I think it might be interesting, and I know, and Chell explained to me this is kind of like the Borg. If anybody's a Star Trek fan, that this company acquires other companies and they built out this platform that maybe we might want to, before the next contract extension, do a very robust RFP, take more time than needed to just make sure this is the right platform, because we're saving money based off their list price, which is, they set it. I could say it could be $800 million. I'm saving you 750, but I'm still spending 50. So I'm not blaming you. I'm just, that's my former world, and that's the games. But I do think it might be worthwhile to, ahead of time, to kind of look and see, is this right? And also, it's good for vendors to know some fear that you might replace them, because then you get better pricing versus they think they have us because they own part of our platform and they've just threatened us with a price increase. So I don't feel like they're doing us a favor at any level. So I'm not going to say thank you. The second thing was, and I think today at the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, we talked about AI, and that's going to be one of our topic areas next year. I guarantee Exxon Enterprise is not writing their own from scratch AI. They're licensing material from other people. And so how that data flows between, maybe they keep it, so they're not going to share, but the backend AI that they're using, a learning machine, might be from another entity, and therefore that data might share out in different ways. So I think that's one of those things the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee was talking about, with the whole system kind of worried about AI, which is a good tool, but for some of the stuff we use it for is very confidential, and some of the stuff is unproven, and we won't know until a court, until someone sues and wins something, that we find out we have an issue. I will share this. My neighbor needed help with a cover letter. She's applying for a nursing position. I use Copilot to help her, because I'm not the person writing cover letters for nursing applications. Suddenly, miraculously, using Microsoft's tools, I now get emails on nursing opportunities everywhere, even though I've signed up for nothing. So I say that using a tool, and obviously it might be different, being that I'm just out in the free wild versus a contract, but where that data flows back and forth for the AI to learn and to apply itself, we don't always know where all the stops are. And so again, lots of stuff, it's kind of wild, wild west now, but I also know that software companies add everything for free to get you to use it and addicted, hooked, and then they add on the price later. That's just standard, as we call it, shelfware. I'll put something on your shelf, and then later on I start charging you for it. So the AI thing does concern me, only because it's unproven, and I don't know what's worse, either the fact that we don't have laws, or the fact that we might have people who don't understand it making laws. Could be just as bad. So I'm all supportive of it. I just am very aware that, you think about it, that if an officer arrests someone and they use an AI tool to save them time, and the AI represents the encounter with the person who's arrested in a way that was not that, it gets written down on a form. Everybody trusts the forms. Here it is. This is what you said, but that may not be exactly what happened. And so I think that's one of those risks that the justice system is going to have to really wrestle with, not just yourselves, but all of us. So anyway, thank you. All those in favor, seeing no further discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And with that, the agenda of the Law, Safety, and Justice Committee is complete, and I declare us adjourned.
I will call to order our Public Works Committee for today, November 13th. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our October 21st meeting. May I have a motion and a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We have several routine items. In fact, let's see here, items 2A through 2J are routine agreements and moving construction projects forward. If I,
I'll move the block, Mr. Chair.
thank you. We have a motion and a second for the block. I'll read them into the record. Item 2A is an amendment to an agreement for ERF grant funding with Minneapolis, extending the end date to 12/20/26 with no change to the not to exceed. Item 2B is an authorization to apply for state grant from MnDOT through the 2025 Local Road Improvement Program, or LRIP, for the County Road 19 and County Road 117 multimodal safety project in the border of Corcoran and Hanover. The item 2C is authorization to submit a variance request for one-lane, one-way street for the Lake Harriet Parkway paving project, superseding Resolution 250273. Item 2D is an authorization to submit a variance request for a 6-foot shared use path on the north side of CASA 153 at the Bridge 90625 underpass, superseding Resolution 250247. Item 2E is an amendment to an agreement with Short Elliott Hendrickson, Inc. for final design services for Nicollet Avenue reconstruction, increasing the not to exceed to $3.17 million and extending the period to 8/1/30. County cost of $1.6 million, transportation advance account, complete streets, and $1.57 million, transportation advancement account, preservation. Item 2F is to negotiate an agreement with MnDOT for maintenance responsibilities, no county cost. Item 2G is to negotiate an agreement with Maple Grove for cost participation and maintenance for the intersection of CASA 61 or Hemlock and Elm Creek Boulevard in Maple Grove, a receivable amount of $354,423. Item 2H is negotiate an agreement with Wright County for cost participation and maintenance of County Line Road Southeast, or County Road 139 in Independence and Delano. Estimated Hennepin County cost of $350,000 from our 2027 transportation operating budget. Item 2I is various agreements for the reconstruction of CASA 152 Cedar Avenue, estimated county cost of $170,000, an estimated receivable of just under $10 million, and increasing the project budget by $270,000 in Minneapolis. The item 2J is various agreements for the reconstruction of Lowry Avenue, estimated county cost of just under $1.2 million, estimated receiving from Minneapolis $2.2 million and some change, and federal funds of $7.6 million. Do my colleagues have any questions? This is a lot of construction and agreements with municipalities to get work done. So, yes, Commissioner Conley?
Thank you. Just the one with the Cedar Avenue project is just wanting clarification on the increase.
Thank you. Ms. Ernie?
Thank you.
Chair Anderson, Commissioner Conley, I'll let Justice Trbojevic join and share what the increase is in respect to.
Thank you. Mr. Trbojevic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm Jessica Trbojevic with Transportation Project Delivery. A budget increase of $270,000 is requested to accept cost participation from Met Council for the construction of conduit to illuminate transit shelters, and from the Mississippi River Watershed Management Organization for construction of drainage infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lundy?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, and I didn't know where to ask it, so I'll just ask it here. I would appreciate and request whenever timely some background information provided to the board on the reconstruction of the bridge between Brooklyn Park, Maple Grove at, I think, Elm Creek Parkway on your side, it's Brooklyn Boulevard on my side. And the reason I ask for that, because it is where the trucks go to the our transfer facility, so it does have impact at many levels. I know our goal eventually to have a sorting facility there, so it is impact is more than just the traffic. It's right in front of our only transfer station. So just putting that there, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I do think that is going to be a bigger project than just a simple thing. So information you can provide to us would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Ms. Ernie, I don't know if you want to talk to that at all right now, but.
Chair Anderson, Commissioner Lundy, there is a lot of conversations happening both with MnDOT and as well as the cities, and so we can put together a quick email that can provide everybody an update just on what the conversations are, what the anticipated project would look like, and what the timeline is.
Thank you. I also just wanted to call out the cost participation for the intersection of Hemlock and Elm Creek Boulevard, also known as the intersection by Costco. And it is a very, very busy intersection. So having safety improvements, and this is adjacent to the gravel mining area and is connected to the bridge that Commissioner Lundy is talking about. So there is a lot happening, and safety improvements with hotels being built on one side and restaurants on another side. Having these improvements is very, very needed. So very much looking forward to our look at that intersection and even kind of expanding that to other, like extending out just past the intersection. I drove by it this morning, and I think I counted 9 lanes that a pedestrian would have to cross in order to get to the other side. So you want to talk about Frogger. It's Commissioner Lundy.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to ask if they could shove more traffic through the Costco parking lot. That'd be great. I think that would really enhance everybody's appreciation for the area, as there's nothing I dread more than going to Costco on a Saturday.
Oh, Sunday is worse, but much agreed.
We have some overflow from our Costco that we'd be happy to send you. I just learned that our Costco gives more immunizations than almost any other Costco in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, St. Louis Park.
I love this Costco off. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of items 2A through 2J, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We have 3 addendum items. Item 2K is to negotiate 2 cost-share agreements for water quality improvement projects in Dayton and Corcoran, with various periods, total combined not to exceed of $212,000. I'll move this. Do I have a second? Thank you. Ms. Cerny.
Chair Anderson, I would ask Karen Gallus to provide a little bit of additional background on these projects.
Thank you. Ms. Gallus.
Hi there, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm Karen Gallus with Environment and Energy. I use she, her pronouns. This request is to approve 2 new agreements for water quality improvement projects. In our role as the Soil and Water Conservation District, Environment and Energy work really closely with residents and partners for projects that improve water quality and have other conservation and environmental benefits. The agreement with the MPET Corporation will provide funding to a horse boarding facility to install a manure storage bunker and some erosion prevention and stabilization infrastructure. And this will prevent a lot of phosphorus and bacteria from getting to Diamond Creek. The agreement with the City of Corcoran will provide funding to convert 28 acres of city-owned farmland to restored prairie. So this project will not only improve water quality, but improve habitat, sequester carbon, and capture, infiltrate, and store storm water, making downstream areas less at risk of flooding. So about 80% of these projects come from state grants and watershed funds, and the remainder of it is made up by county contributions and the landowners. Be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? I appreciate, also just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you for your presentation last night to the mayors in my area. They very much appreciated it. And this project came up in conversation. So always exciting to see the work kind of full circle. So seeing no other comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Item 2L is to negotiate an agreement with BNSF for new railroad crossing surface on Zachary Lane in Maple Grove and a sub-project of CP 2201000, estimated county cost of $95,000 of state aid.
Move approval.
I will second. Ms. Cerny?
Chair Anderson, Commissioners, this item seeks authorization to negotiate and execute an agreement with BNSF for the replacement of the railroad crossing along Zachary Lane in Maple Grove. This location is in poor condition and was prioritized, and is the work will be done in parallel with additional BNSF scheduled work for upgraded crossing arms, gates, and signal interconnect infrastructure. The new crossing surface will include both the sidewalk and vehicle surface, and is planned for 2026 construction season.
Thank you so much. As somebody who drives over this while I bring my kids to school every day, I appreciate the work going into it. Any questions for my colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Our last item on the agenda, 2M, is a very similar agreement. Negotiate an agreement with BNSF for new railroad crossing service on Bass Lake Road in Crystal. Estimated county cost of $175,000 of property tax. May I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Cerny?
As you stated, Chair Anderson, similar to the previous action, this railroad crossing is in poor condition, and we are seeking authorization to negotiate and execute an agreement with BNSF to replace the crossing, which would include both the sidewalk as well as the vehicle surface on Bass Lake Road. Again, this work is planned for the 2026 construction season.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That item is approved as well, and I will declare us adjourned. I'd like to call today's meeting of the Intergovernmental Committee to order on behalf of myself and my co-chair, Commissioner Conley. We just have two short items. I think we'll be in and out of here fast. First one is 1A, approval of the minutes from 2/25/2025 minutes. If I can motion a second.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any changes, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to item 2A. I think if it's okay, we'll start with the legislative priority first and then go through the platform. And the platform, we'll go through each section. We'll let RGR staff led by Liz Young lead that discussion. Then we'll see if there's any amendments or changes, and then we'll approve them as we go. So let me know if that works. Well, Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz Young, Director of Intergovernmental Relations. Thank you for the opportunity to bring forward the staff recommendations for the 2026 legislative platform and priority, and for your support of IGR. Before we begin, and on behalf of IGR, I want to thank all the staff that we have the opportunity to work with. Every victory we see at the Capitol is because of the incredible county staff who partner with us to do this work. And I'd like to thank my team, Acolade, Brennan, Kirk, Liz, Meg, Wanda, and Grace, along with our colleagues, Susie and Jessica, for everything they do on behalf of the county and residents. This has been a challenging year in many ways and a heartbreaking one in many others, and I am grateful for the dedication and hard work they have shown this year. Thank you. As we considered the 2026 platform and priorities, we had to keep in mind the political dynamics in St. Paul. A tied legislature and a projected budget deficit in 2 years heading into an election year. So IGR worked to pare back next year's platform and priority to reflect what we could reasonably make progress on. As the county prepares for the impacts of HR 1, it was important to narrow in our focus, especially as we also know we're at risk of playing defense next year. Therefore, IGR is recommending dropping to one priority next year, and that is to protect the county's ability to deliver needed services to residents. Through your budget process, you and administration have shown that same commitment, and we are ready to do our part at the Capitol. With that, we will move to the platform, and I will hand it over to Brennan Furness to cover our 2 new bonding requests, one of which we were actually able to highlight yesterday for the House Committee.
We are starting off strong. We have change already. I'm sorry, Commissioner Conley. We do, I think, a small change. So Commissioner Conley.
Very small. I wondered what the appetite might be. I really appreciate the narrow focus here. We are going in and we're going in strong. And being that we're doing that, I wondered what the appetite might be. I'd like to have this priority read, protect the county's ability to continue providing critical services to residents. I just think it makes it a little stronger. I'd wonder what my colleagues would say about that. So again, that's protect the county's ability to continue providing critical services to residents.
Chair, I'm happy to second that if that was a motion to amend.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend. Commissioner Fernando.
Wait, I'm just realizing it. Did we put the priority? Did we move and second the priority document?
Oh, I don't know.
Pardon, I will move the document to have it before us.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to move the document before us. Now we'd amend that.
So then I would offer a motion to amend the priority to read, protect the county's ability to continue providing critical services to residents.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to amend. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, and with that, I'll turn it over to Brennan Furness.
So maybe before we do that, I'll just, and don't mess this up, we'll put this on the table. So Commissioner Fernando, if you want to put the platform on the table.
Question, do we want to vote on the priority to complete that and then the platform? Or would you like, technically the platform, the priority is before us. I think we should just vote on this one
Yep.
and then we can move the platform.
So we do have a motion to approve the priorities as amended.
Priority.
Yep, priority, yes, as amended and seconded. So all those in favor of approving the priority as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The priority is passed. So now move on to the full platform. Commissioner Fernando, if you want.
I'll move the platform.
Second.
All right, now we'll start. Brennan.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Brennan Furness with IGR. Starting off with bonding, we are removing Hennepin Avenue Suspension Bridge, successfully received funding this last session. And then moving on to 2 new items, and thank you once again to the staff that helped present these items to the bonding committee, Commissioner Conley for your help in welcoming the committee, and Commissioner Lundy for your help as well. The 2 items are really focused on safety improvements in these 2 corridors that are in line with timing for future transit investments. The first one with West Broadway, safety and mobility improvements from Lyndale to the river and coinciding with future Blue Line extension. The second one is with Washington Avenue and the Cedar Riverside neighborhood that will align with the H-Line arterial BRT that will begin construction in about 2028.
Any questions or, I thought maybe we'd go by section and if everybody amends or we make changes and at the end of the section, I'll just do a vote on that section and we'll move on to the next one if that's okay. I'm looking for Anything? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. I know the bonding committee is doing their their tour of the state right now. Are we on their schedule? And are these projects kind of queued up to be in that schedule? Or can you talk a little bit, because I know like these two are new as a bonding request, but I was curious how that.
Yeah, we just yesterday the House started their Metro bonding tour. We presented our two items. The Senate has been kind of all over the map on their tours. We're hopeful to get meetings with individual senators to prioritize our projects.
Okay. Any questions? I think it is as presented with no amendments, so I think we can just proceed. Thank you, Brennan. Move on to climate and environment next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Kirk Peterson. I will start out with the climate and environment section. Under the framing statement, you will see that we are adding the words climate action and zero waste, simply to reflect the actions that the board has taken on those issues. We are recommending deleting in this section the clean transportation issues. You will see that the VMT issue is placed further down in the transportation section to continue our work on that. And on the bottom of page 1, under energy efficiency and renewables, recommending striking that out, not because it isn't an issue for us, but simply because, as Ms. Young said, we really need to focus our efforts on what we think is going to happen this year. So we're recommending taking that one out. On the next page, natural resources, new language to permanently authorize the mortgage and deed tax capture for the Environmental Response Fund used to clean up contaminated properties in the county. Our authority to collect that fee expires at the end of 2027, and so we want to get a head start on working on that now. You will see the next two strike-throughs are combined in the new language dealing with EAB and wood waste and community forest language, so that's just kind of a cleanup on those sections with the EAB and wood waste sections. The next issue was soil and water conservation districts, just adding the word increased. We have seen some stabilization of those funds, but those are chronically underfunded, so we're going to continue to seek increased funding for soil and water conservation districts. Then we are removing the LCCMR language. We did get that passed last year, so a success on that issue, and staff has not put any either LCCMR or Lessard-Sams grants in for this funding cycle, so we can take that one out. Next issue, if there's no questions on that, waste management. Again, this whole section pretty much stays the same, all working towards our zero waste goals. As you can see, there's a lot of issues here. We will probably focus on the perennial score funding, e-waste and battery bill, which we got close on last year. So we're going to focus on the e-waste and batteries, and then probably defending the packaging, the EPR bill that was passed 2 years ago. Be playing a lot of defense on that. Otherwise, most of those issues will probably stay the same. On the next page, just the updating for the Partnership on Waste and Energy, updating the date to reflect the 2026 legislative session on that. And those are the changes for climate and environment, unless there are any questions.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, I would consider that as adopted or as part of the package. So then we'll move on to general government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General government, under elections, you'll notice mostly strike-throughs because we were successful last year in getting a big elections technical bill passed, and most of our stuff was included in that. We are leaving in and kind of rewording the strengthening election integrity and security measures. There are a couple issues, both technical and more work to do with protecting safeguards for election workers, candidates, and voters, so we're going to recommend leaving that one in. Under operations and administration, you'll see a strike through on the marriage license application technical package that we got passed last year. That was a multi-year effort. There was many things involved in that, but we were successful in getting that passed last year, so we can take it off. The next issue changing the word modifying to reallocating when we're talking about marriage license, motor vehicle, and driver's license fee changes. All of these things fund our deputy registrar and service center offices. We're not anticipating any increase in taxes or fees. However, a lot of those are statutorily provided to different areas. And if we can reallocate how some of those statutorily dedicated funds are used, we can beef up our service centers and deputy registrar offices with those. The strike through on the remote application for marriage licenses was in that package that we got passed last year, so we can take that out. Not recommending the third-party board for compensation levels. Again, probably not something that's going to be addressed in a short year at the legislature. And then the final addition under this section, kind of a big one, updating Hennepin County statutes regarding the operation of the medical examiner's offices. A couple technical things, either for the Hennepin County specific office or statewide operations for medical examiner's offices that we want to get cleaned up sooner rather than later. Moving down to data practices. Again, mostly the same issues. We got some of these into conference committee last year but weren't successful, so we want to continue work on those. However, we are recommending taking out the one issue that was kind of controversial last year, and we didn't have a buy-in from all of the parties, so we're probably not going to have to work on that this year. And then moving on finally to the broadband issue, just continuing that with our extension of broadband access and digital equity for county residents. Mr. Chairman, that concludes general government for now.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the general government area? All right, see none. Thank you.
I'll hand it over to Jessica.
Yep.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Jessica Oaxaca. I'm the Advocacy Engagement Manager at Hennepin Healthcare System, which, as you all know, is Minnesota's largest Medicaid provider system and safety net level 1 trauma hospital. And I'll be talking about our section of the platform here. So the state's response to the federal changes in Medicaid is going to be a pretty big topic of conversation at the state legislature this upcoming session. So starting right away on page 5 under our first section, which reads Increased Financial Stability of Hennepin Healthcare System, we added support efforts to minimize harm from federal changes to Medicaid. And then maximizing Medicaid reimbursements is stricken out and replaced with this, since expanding Medicaid will be, of course, more challenging. And that goes hand in hand with the addition of the word increase before supplemental funding sources that will impact how we're able to care for patients with complex care needs. We'll be working closely with the Minnesota Hospital Association, counties, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders to help inform how the state responds to those federal changes that passed earlier this year. And then under the second bullet in that same section, we strike out strengthen value-based payment arrangements and tighten it up to read increase and add transparency to Medicaid-directed payments to maximize the benefit of this program. That language is referring to our fee schedule that directly impacts what we're paying in our monthly intergovernmental transfer, or the IGT. And those are the dollars that we put up for CMS to match with federal funds. We need increased transparency there to help us understand the methodology or any drivers and changes there that impact what we pay in our IGT. There's been a lot of conversations among our finance teams and leadership on that, so that language in the platform really just gives us the flexibility that we need to be able to advocate for that on various levels. So then moving on to our health equity section, on top of page 6, we strike out expanding the definition of the community health worker care coordination under Medicaid and tighten up the language around gun violence to read address gun violence as a public health crisis and support prevention efforts, striking out the state plan amendment to Medicaid piece of that and keeping it broad to investing in sustainable funding to really give us the flexibility that we need to be able to advocate for stabilizing funding for our Next Step program, which is our hospital-based violence prevention program that is housed at Hennepin Healthcare but provides those services at North Memorial, Children's, and Abbott. And then lastly here, Under our healthcare workforce section at the bottom of page 6 to the top of page 7, we just make some minor cleanup changes there, like striking out the licensure of certified midwives because that passed at the legislature this past legislative session, and then striking out maintaining current state investment in that last bullet on graduate medical education, as those changes were passed previously as well. With that, that concludes our section.
Any questions or comments on this section? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to Health and Human Services section.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Liz Doyle, Deputy Director of IGR for Health and Human Services. So you'll see the first substantive addition to this section is that first bullet under systems reform, which is intended to broadly encompass mitigating the negative impacts of HR 1 and other federal changes on the county and its residents. So this speaks to preservation of services for residents, minimizing the administrative burdens for the county on implementing some of the complexity out of the new federal law, and offering and supporting alternatives to cost shifts that are part of HR 1. So that's the first broad substantive bullet here under Health and Human Services, and then I'm going to turn it over to Meg next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Meg Montgomery from Hennepin County IGR covering public health and health systems. The second bullet under systems reform is in light of the ongoing national gun violence epidemic and tragic events here in our county over the summer and fall. We are proposing the addition of a bullet addressing the crisis of gun violence in the county's version of the platform, in addition to what already exists in the hospital's platform section. So we, at this point, do not anticipate a special session on gun violence, but we do anticipate there will be a focus on gun safety, behavioral health supports, and community violence prevention in the upcoming session. The third bullet just has a very minor formatting change. The fourth bullet is proposed in collaboration with our colleagues in Aging Access and Disability. This is just underlining the crucial need for partnership between the state and counties when we are proposing rules or changes to programs such as MinChoices and case management. And the fifth bullet, we are proposing a change from maintain to increase state support for local public health. This is in light of the dramatic lack of funding or reductions in funding at the federal level. We do anticipate that our Hennepin County Public Health team will be called on as experts when it comes to infectious disease response and expanded vaccine access. Thank you.
Speak to the next two changes here. So the first of which is striking of language related to the PCA program, replacement of that with language to support seamless and timely access to the CFSS program. This is intended to just reflect the transition of PCA into CFSS. So that's that change, and then you'll see a strikeout at the end of this section around addressing social determinants of health. This was really just with an eye to removing some outdated provisions of the platform. And then I will hand it next to Akolade.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, in the Invest in Children and Families section, you'll just see the removal of advanced legislation, just reflecting the passage of the Minnesota African American Family Preservation Child Welfare Disproportionality Act. And then you'll just see the addition of the words invest resources, just to make sure, giving us the capacity and ability at the Capitol to work on, just make sure we're investing in those resources as the law is meant to go statewide in 2027. And then moving on to the section of substance use disorder, just below, just a very minor change as well. The last bullet point, just the removal of the end of sale of all menthol and flavored commercial tobacco products, just because we don't anticipate that topic and issue getting any traction or movement this session, but we will continue just meeting with our stakeholders on this topic of issue. And I will stand for any questions. If not, I can move on to housing.
Any questions or comments in this section? Continue on.
All right. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, in the housing section, very minor as well. In the second bullet point, you just see some grammatical change. And then also you'll see the inclusion of the words including those. That is just staff recommendation, just giving us the ability at the Capitol to work in that supported housing service areas. There's just been a lot of interest in redesigning a lot of programs there. And we just believe this gives us the ability for counties to have a seat at that table and to be a part of those discussions. And that's pretty much it for the housing section. I will pass it off to Wanda unless there's any questions.
Any questions, comments in the housing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Wanda Cannon, Hennepin County Intergovernmental Relations for Law, Safety, Justice, and related behavioral health issues. In the first section, under increased funding, we are proposing to remove the second bullet. The intent of this language is actually covered already in the framing statement for Law, Safety, Justice section. In the remove barriers section, the next section down, we are proposing to delete the first three bullets. The first bullet, that language is actually covered farther down in this section. The second and third bullets around human trafficking and expungement laws have evolved to address these concerns. And the housing issue covered under those bullets is now covered under the housing section. In the last bullet in that section with regard to the North Star Act, we have updated some of that language. And then in the final section, improving outcomes, we are proposing to combine the first two bullets to account for one clear statement of our strong commitment to advancing reforms and helping county-involved youth and their families achieve better outcomes. With the priority admissions bullet further down, we are suggesting language to highlight the state's ongoing responsibility to expand capacity and ensure greater access to behavioral health services. And then underneath that, we have also added some language around domestic and intimate partner violence prevention. This would align with the recent resolution the board passed on October 14th, and we think it would be helpful to have this language added into the platform. And then the last change in this section is merely updating the year on the MESB, or Metropolitan Emergency Services Board legislative platform, to continue our support of that.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Brennan.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Brendan Furness with IGR. Moving on to taxes, primarily removing items that we saw success last session. And draw your attention to page 13. We are adjusting the language around new revenue sources to pursue for Hennepin County healthcare related operation facilities and youth, as well as youth activities, library hours, and capital needs at Target Field, moving beyond just the ballpark sales tax. If there's no question on taxes, I'll move on to transportation.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that we remind ourselves every year that nobody's actually poring over the exact wording of this document, and yet I have to just ask a question. Right, exactly, we are. And so I wondered, does it make sense to say something in this space about seeking regional dollars to support a regional asset, or something like that, that's essentially conveying, a little bit of this?
I think that kind of is implicit in the non-property tax revenue, but you could explicitly say that. Yes.
I defer to my chairs.
Okay. Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe not the regionalism part, but I think we can find a way to say statewide asset or statewide services, because that's, I think that's what, to fund the statewide services provided by Hennepin County Healthcare related operations and facilities, or something like, and this will be approved next week too, so we could also just offer that feedback. But for me, you kind of said two things. I think I agree that the non-property tax revenue source kind of gets at the regional portion on the revenue side. You are correct that we have not emphasized enough the statewide asset and the statewide services on the second portion of what you said. So that's how I would kind of think about that. And Just based off of the type of commentary, perhaps we could have, staff recommend how to incorporate that for next week for our consideration, unless they already have something, which they could, because they're that good.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I appreciate that you think we can work that fast, but not quite. This was language recommended by OBF, so I think I'd recommend that we come back next week with an amendment in consultation with them, just to make sure that we're matching how we need to.
And they left.
Do you want me to go get him? I will.
For myself, I think, to me, regional, I think really should be regional as in multi-state, because, thanks to Jessica and Susie's work and the hospital team, 40% of our visitors to our burn and trauma unit come from outside Hennepin. That doesn't include how many come from the Dakotas, Iowa, anywhere else. So I think I defer to have an OBF come with that language, but if there's a way to capture regional as in, it is a multi-state asset. Yeah. And so I think that would be important to make that case. It's not just about capturing Minnesotans who come to visit. It's also people from outside of our state that as well. So, but is everybody okay with the idea of having OBF come back with maybe some language that might broaden that out? But
Yes.
okay. Perfect. Any other questions on taxes? Just make sure. Okay, continue on. Thank you.
Just moving on to transportation. Also cleaning up some language throughout this section and removing items where we saw success. One point to make is just we are kind of pulling apart one of the larger items and having a separate bullet point on the Towards Zero Deaths initiatives. Really following the action plan that was just released this year and the emphasis that we are placing on that across the board. And that wraps up transportation.
Any questions, transportation? Commissioner Anderson.
My apologies for not saying this during any one-on-one meeting, but I'm wondering if there is an opportunity within transportation to specify like preserving funding that has been dedicated to existing accounts or something along those lines. Like there was a sales tax that was attempted to be clawed back last session, and they also directed how we spend some of our money on another project outside of a normal process. So if there's an opportunity to include some kind of language about protecting what they have allocated to us, I would appreciate that too. I don't know.
I was going to say, you beat me to it. I'll call it affectionately the Anoka County pedestrian bridge issue, but because I think that illustrates it better than our Washington Avenue bridge request. But I think once there's a taste and ability to start grabbing money from counties or municipalities, there's no limit that if someone's got money for a project that they feel entitled to spend it for us on what they feel is important. I think this is definitely an AMC issue because I'd have to believe it. But I do think, to your point, putting that in there is even preventative language to say, in case we get a chance to, if it's in the platform, I think one thing I'll just say, Commissioner Conley, myself, especially when it's in the platform and there's a request to testify, being it's in the platform matters, those words matter so that we can say yes, and somebody from staff might show up to testify versus if it's not in the platform, then we have a different challenge sometimes. So go ahead, Liz.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, we can review the section to see if it would be best amended into an existing bullet point or as a new bullet point, but can take that into consideration for next week's board hearing.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on workforce development? Or I'm sorry, transportation before we get to workforce development? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Kirk Peterson again. Under workforce development, recommend removing out the funding for the Minnesota Youth Program, not recommending funding for the youth program, just removing it from this since it's not an appropriations year. The next two additions dealing with the dislocated worker program and SNAP ENT program, again, more of a reflection of the federal HR1 funding cuts. and these would give us more flexibility to direct existing and any remaining funds better within those programs. Then the final addition with ensuring presumption for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and workers' comp programs. We've seen expanding job categories of PTSD presumption, and we want to make sure that those don't become financially unmanageable for counties and local governments. So that's it for workforce development.
Any questions or comments on this section? Okay, nonprofit requests.
Brendan Furness. To wrap us up, just reflecting the change that the board made to the platform last spring to incorporate people serving people and to serve as their fiscal agent for their bonding request.
Okay. Any questions on that? Right now, here's what I have as I was tracking. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Fernando.
Yeah, just a general comment on the, I'm just catching up a little bit to what Commissioner Anderson, I think, was trying to say. And just for the platform as a whole, I think that's what Director Young was speaking about playing defense. You know, I mean, so there's going to be a lot of like a live defense happening. But we got a memo about how much like revenue the county raises relative to the state or as a subsection of the state. I think as you all are developing the strategy, this is wonderful, by the way, as you all are developing the strategies on how we will be successful in attaining a number of these items, I don't believe people realize the service entwining that we have for the whole state, like that multi-state service, but just the financial entwining, like our economics, whether it's the court tower across this building or a number of other functions. We are really entwined, and I don't know how to describe that. You know, we will like kind of fight for more CPA, you know, CPA that's like literally 30 million or something, when we probably expend that amount on non-rent, you know, on like kind of tenant relationship with the state alone. And so I don't know how we want to think about that. I think beyond the actual harm of these federal policies is this really dangerous scarcity mindset that is already present, and this kind of a sense of entitlement about whose money is whose or something to that effect. And I know we can use that language at times, and you know, I don't favor a lot of the language at the legislature. It's a bit kind of aggressive for me linguistically. So I just wanted to place that here for just our consideration as you all are doing the difficult work. I've now spent a little bit of time at the legislature. It is a place. Wow, it is. My youth workings background is certainly beneficial at an employer like there. So I don't know how it's a tall order, but like, how are we with data, with compassion, seeking at a time where there is financial scarcity to attempt a sense of abundance on behalf of our residents, because we in fact do know what can work for our residents. The economics have just been completely upended. The last 5 decades of, bipartisan building, whether it's food or healthcare, et cetera, has been upended. So I know it's a bit of a tall order, but again, beyond the actual harm, which is way worse, I am already kind of pre-concerned of just how scarcity will be weaponized against the good work and effective outcomes that this county has been able to prove, and even the good intention of some of the laws that have been able to pass the last handful of years, and we would like the chance to be able to prove. So a little bit of a soapbox, but I'm hoping that it's resonating a bit with folks. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
What I was going to say, and I'll give Liz, I have 2 items I noted. One is a section having OBF come back with some language, so probably the best thing to do is progress this to next week. And then the second section I have is transportation, is having IGR take a crack at, is there a more regional, whatever the perspective, to come back. So I just note those as the 2 things that I heard conversation up here that didn't require a motion because we're asking staff to come back for it. Ms. Young, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for good meetings and good discussion on this. We'll come back with those recommendations ahead of next Tuesday's board meeting, and happy to answer any other questions that you might have about the platform.
The only thing I was going to mention, I think, to pick up on Commissioner Fernando said is, obviously I spend too much time on Twitter following our legislators and their comments, but sometimes you get honest reaction because most of them are just commenting themselves. And there is sometimes a sense, I think, in some parts of Minnesota that all their money goes to Hennepin for all of our projects, and which is why I always request that, to say it's not, we don't complain when our money's going somewhere else. Well, we do, but not, but the idea is also that I think there is a notion that people think all their money comes to Hennepin and we use it all, which is just factually incorrect. And so I think having that kind of information helps us. I think of what Jessica and Susie gave me for the visits to the Trauma and Burn Center, which is 40% are not Hennepin, but 100% of the costs are Hennepin property tax owners. I think in a couple weeks, hopefully we're going to get maybe some sample, like a gunshot, a burn visit, and a car accident, or some sample visits, so we can actually see the gaps where, on average, and I say gap as in how much of the care costs, how much do we get reimbursed, so we can actually start to quantify, on average, of those 20,000 visits over those 5 years, here's about how much this cost, here's what the gap was, and our residents are paying this. And it's not to say we don't want to take people who arrive in time of need, but it's also the financial realities, as evidenced by we need alternative revenue sources, because otherwise it's the retired lady in Robbinsdale, I'll pick Dan's hometown, who is on a fixed income, who's paying for care that's going for people who are maybe from North Dakota or South Dakota. So, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for those remarks that you just made. And I want to sort of second them and maybe add a little bit about how touchy it is. Like, I appreciate the memo and am looking forward to poring over it and the TIF memo in greater detail in the next 48 hours. But one thing that struck me was when we get into this conversation about how much we provide to the state, when people who aren't from Hennepin see the figures, they are like, oh, partly it's a recognition of how important we are to the state financially, but some of it is also a little like irritation with the fact that when we raise our property taxes by like 0.01%, that there's some money there to do something with. And so I just appreciate that all of these angles are being evaluated and that we are guided so ably by our IGR department to sort of, manage the conversation in a way that keeps it on the issues. Thank you.
All right, I think we need a motion to
Move to
progress.
progress to Tuesday.
Second.
We have a motion to progress, I'll just call it the platform. That's correct. All those in favor of that progressing until next week, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. But don't go too far.
Exactly. Don't forget, this is always the long one. Yeah. Was there for the 9 p.m.
Good afternoon. I will call to order this meeting of the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority for Thursday, November 13th. The first item of business on our agenda is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
The agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. The agenda is set. Item 2 on our agenda is the minutes from our previous meeting held September 25th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Minutes have been moved and seconded. Any additions, corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes. Item 3 is our claims register. We have items 3A and 3B, which is the claims registers for the period ending September 30th, 2025, and the claims register for the period ending October 31st of 2025. Is there a motion to approve both? Item has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The claims register has been approved. We have several items of new business on our agenda today. I will ask for a motion to approve or to move item 4A before us. It's been moved and seconded. Item 4A is to reassign the portion of an agreement related to Bass Lake Crossing in New Hope to a different agreement with Bass Lake Equity Partners, LLC, with substantially similar terms allowing the transfer of ownership with no change to the NTE. Julia Welly-Ayers will present this item for us. Welcome.
Chair Conley, Commissioners, Julia Welly-Ayers from Housing and Economic Development. Back in 2017, the HRA provided Aon a small $15,000 loan to acquire 3 naturally occurring affordable housing properties, including Bass Lake Crossing in New Hope. This investment allowed qualified Aon for the 4D tax classification and also ensured affordability for 140 units at 60% AMI for 30 years. Aon is now selling Bass Lake properties as part of its repair and grow stabilization plan. The sale and this board action allowed transferring the property to a new owner who has agreed to continue the affordability for the remainder of the term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. 4B is to amend an agreement to transfer ownership of Willowwood Estates to SRE Willowwood LLC with no change to the contract period or NTE. I'll move that one if there's a second.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. Abby Lucen is prepared to present on this item. Welcome.
The 40-unit affordable housing townhome development in Plymouth. The project receives HUD, project-based Section 8 assistance on all 40 units, which enhances affordability for all households. The HRA first supported this property with a 2004 AHIF loan. If I can scroll. In 2020, Hennepin County approved the purchase of the property and assumption of this AHIF loan by Common Bond Communities. As part of their portfolio stabilization strategy, Common Bond is now selling the property to Springhold Group. The buyer will maintain all affordability restrictions and assume the Section 8 contract. As part of the 2020 loan assumption, accrued interest was added to loan principal and the agreement extended to July 1st, 2064, so almost 40 years of affordability. The buyer, Springhold, wishes to assume the loan as amended in 2020 and will maintain the affordability restrictions. Staff recommend assumption of this AHIF loan to facilitate the preservation of this important federally assisted affordable housing property. I'm available should you have any questions.
Thank you. We're keeping units affordable here. Colleagues, questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Item 4C, we just received an R1 for.
I'll move the R1.
The R1 has been moved and seconded. And we saw this item in the Admin, Ops, and Budget Committee. 4C is to authorize the issuance and sale of one or more tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for an affordable housing preservation project at 3400 Parklawn Avenue and 5010 Summit Avenue in Edina. The R1 has been moved and seconded, and I believe Abby Lucen is going to present on this one as well. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Today's request is for final approval of the issuance of up to $22 million in housing revenue bonds to support the preservation of these two affordable housing properties, South Haven and Summit Point. Both properties together will continue to provide 129 units of affordable housing, all of which are one-bedroom units reserved for seniors and people with disabilities. This is deeply affordable housing. All units are reserved for residents with very low incomes, and all units benefit from project-based Section 8. The revision that triggered the R1 is a result of the extended federal government shutdown, bumping up against the bond issuance deadline established by the state. This revision allows the borrower maximum flexibility to meet the bond issuance deadline. Staff recommend a final HRA approval for this conduit finance, and the board will consider the companion resolution next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from my colleagues? I appreciate you answering the only question I had, which was with the revision. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. I'm going to ask to move items 4D and E together. We'll have the same presenter on those. Items have been moved and seconded. Thank you. I'll read those into the record and then invite Ryan Kelly to come and speak to them. Item 4D is to negotiate 6 Love Local storefront grant agreements. I just love that. With local government agencies. The dates on this one are November 13th, 2025 through December 31st of 2027. There's a total combined NTE of $225,000. 4E is to negotiate 2 multi-jurisdictional agreements with the City of Minneapolis to support transit-oriented communities grant implementation from November 13th of 2025 through December 31st, 2028. These 2 items have been moved and seconded. Mr. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Conley, Commissioners. The first item before you would approve agreements with 6 Hennepin County communities to implement a facade improvement program, Love Local Storefronts, in local business districts. Love Local Storefronts is an offshoot of the Business District Initiative established in 2015. The Business District Initiative has been well received and oversubscribed most years with a high demand to support local facade improvement programs. Based on this demand and the interest of serving smaller communities that often don't have the capacity to design their own programs, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority created Love Local Storefronts, building on the Shop Local, Love Local campaign and messaging that has been implemented in partnership with suburban communities over the past few years. Combined, these agreements will directly benefit an estimated 15 to 20 businesses directly and benefit business districts with approximately 640 local businesses within them and leverage at least $375,000 in matching investments. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions on that item? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question on the Love Local storefront. I know that there was some conversation in the city of Medina where they were less keen on the local match. Do you know how that turned out, or? Yeah.
Sure, Chair Conley, Commissioner. I'm not sure what part they might have been less keen on. I do know that we allowed flexibility in the city's participation and the participation of actual business owners or property owners. We set it up. We require a dollar-for-dollar match, and some cities will provide less themselves based on their own capacity, and then that will require the property owner's participation. So I haven't heard anything from Medina about not wanting any match.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was going to talk about how nice it was to have a local match. Sorry, Commissioner Anderson. I want to thank you for these programs. I think, at a 1,000-foot view, it looks like, facades and this stuff, but we're updating, those areas where small businesses thrive so that they, sometimes it's just a better storefront, more visibility, people are there. I know Crystal's taking advantage of it, New Hope's taking advantage of it, Brooklyn Center, when they redid by Humboldt where they had, the civil unrest after the Dante Wright killing. And so they really do help. And sometimes you have owners that can't really update it. And so the money's there. And I do like the match simply because, it's to the point, can everybody provide all that? No, but I think having that flexibility, but also it's skin in the game. if you're not willing to invest money into something and your only investment is if we are, then I always think that's the wrong approach. And so if they think it's important, we think it's important, we work together on that. And I highlight Robin's to obviously, it'll help kind of connect when the blue line is started and connected there. That Main Street's gonna really burst open. So, thank you.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to clarify, is this a good time to ask questions about 4E? Okay. So, greatly interested in both of these programs and think that they do a lot of interesting and good things. For 4E, especially as contrasted with 4D, it's a little less clear how the local match works, if there is one. So I wondered if you could talk about that. And then also, it was interesting to see that the history that was provided gave the opportunity to see sort of the stack up of investments in this one intersection. And again, I was interested in the local participation. Thank you.
Mr. Keller, would you like to give a summary of 4E and then answer that question?
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Conley. Commissioners, I'll do that quickly. Distinct item. So 4E, that item is to approve 2 cooperative agreements with the City of Minneapolis under the multi-jurisdictional statute. So the board has previously approved transit-oriented communities funding for 2 projects, the Dreamland on 38th Street project, which has received 2 transit-oriented communities awards, and then the 2815 East Lake Street project. These agreements meet statutory requirements and enable HRA investment into the projects. Authorizing these agreements enable the 2 projects to move forward and our funding to be invested into them as they get underway, with a total investment value of over $14 million. I'm happy to take questions. So on that question, these agreements are with the city, and it's essentially the city saying, oh, we're aware of you making this award, and we're okay with you making that investment into those projects. The city themselves is not required to put money into either project via the Transit-Oriented Communities Program. And in these 2 projects themselves, as far as I know, the city is not investing in them at this time.
Thank you, and thank you for that additional information. And so, I'm sorry that I don't remember from other years with our community, transit-oriented communities, not community-oriented development, what the process is. But is this the sum total of our investments for this year? Like, is this sort of a recap of this process for 2025, or have there been others that I'm just not remembering?
Chair Conley, Commissioners, we don't always have to do the multi-jurisdictional agreement for projects. So a number of criteria under statute. Is there affordable housing of a certain level? Is the city created a redevelopment district? So we navigate that criteria. In some cases, we have to take this route to award the funds. Never have we had a city say, no, we don't want you to invest in these projects, but we need to fulfill that obligation. So the $14 million I referenced is the development cost of these 2 projects alone. Our transit-oriented communities awards this year was our $2.2 million allocation. You're gonna stump me. I think we had 6 projects we ended up making awards to in total.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. Click. Got it.
Got it. And then Mr. Dockery, you had something to say as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Green, I just would add, so we did the awards earlier. Usually we don't. The authority of the HRA that under the HRA statute is broad enough to cover our ability to implement most transit-oriented community awards. In this case, they kind of fall out of redevelopment areas, and so the multi-jurisdictional statute, which is the agreement we do with the city, allows us to open up some additional authority, so we can implement what the board approved earlier. So this is not the total TOC investment, as Ryan pointed out. This is just 2 projects that are kind of orphaned for different reasons. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, colleagues? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes, which appears to be the final item of business on our agenda. I will declare us adjourned.